How you doing, guys? Big Mac Dan School here again today, back once again with another video for you, another live stream. I appear not to be live according to my own YouTube feed. However, if I am live, please let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to be waffling along to myself forever. And if you know what the quote forever is from, please feel free to pop that in the chat as well, and you win some internet cookies. Yes, I'm just waiting for I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll refresh that page, see if I suddenly pop up. We've got Brack the Warboss in the chat. I assume then I am live and kicking. How you doing, Brack? I noticed your video is delayed due to illness. Hope everything's okay, bud. I think that was your video anyway. Yes, so it appears not to be live in my feed on my channel, so I'm going to come out. There we go, I am live, but it's just showing up as a different stream for some reason. Anyway, at least I know I'm live now. I'm going to click on that and then turn it right down so it doesn't get any echo. I think that was your video anyway. Boom, done. Right, we got JR Blazing Arrow in the chat as well. Good morning, welcome to the chat, bud. Anyone joining us, make sure you say hi in the chat, and don't forget to give the video a like when you see that like button. Where is the like button anyway? I can't see it on my, there it is, it's below the chat. I was going to say I can't see it on my desktop. So today I'm just going to be painting some Death Guard. Normally on Sundays, okay, it's bad case of the lurgy, bad times mate, I hope everything's alright, hope you recover quickly enough. Yeah, so normally on Sundays I do a Conquest tutorial mission video, but I'm falling a little bit behind due to life events. I'm falling a little bit behind on keeping the miniatures painted, or getting the miniatures painted rather. I could have, in truth, had this guy finished by now. I just need to finish his base off. Let's put my hand behind. There we go. Get a bit more focus there. So I just need to finish his base off, really. And then that is up to the standard I paint to for the battle reports for the tutorial missions. So it's nothing major, and then I'm going to start working on some of these guys, Lord Felthius and his tainted cohort. I've got 4 of those miniatures set to start on. I'll just grab them from behind me actually. Might as well grab all 4 of them. Although they're just going to clutter the desk now until I need to get to them. So I'll move them to one side. But at least within arm's reach without having to spin round. Yeah, so normally I do my Conquest tutorial mission videos, falling a bit behind on the painting due to life events, and as the video title would suggest, painting Death Guard and channel discussion, I'm going to be talking about what that means for the channel in the coming weeks. I'll switch down to the desk focus now, and I'm going to take a sip of my coffee as well. Let's click on that one. Should be a live desk focus. Yeah, it's a little bit behind, but it is working, I think. Ow, burning my hands on my coffee there, it's still hot. And I will do my best not to nudge this too much, because that happens. Hope everyone's alright in the chat. What's everybody been working on? Anything exciting recently? Anything not exciting? Anything really dull and you have to just grind your way through it? I've completely forgotten how I do the bases. It's a wash of, it's a green wash, I think. A green shade. It's not any of them. Drakenhalf. So, you know what? I don't even think I've got the wash I need readily available here. What I'm going to do is just tilt you down there and then have a good rumble through some of my paints. I've got Death Guard green, and I'm going to look for, oh my word, where have I put it? Right, I'll be back in 2 ticks. So I've got the painting guide to hand now. We've got more Draka 09 in the chat and the Weather Pig. Welcome, mate. Mucking about with Orc stuff. Excellent news. And yeah, that's everyone now in the chat. Even from, I think most of the chat is from Australia at the minute. So yeah, we've got the Weather Pig from Australia, Brack the Warboss from Australia, JR Blazing Arrow. I'm not sure where JR Blazing Arrow is from. Give us a shout in the chat and let us know where you're from, and then we can see what kind of global audience we've got. Nottingham, so not too far away from me, about an hour and a half, 2 hours away, depending on traffic. Yes, right, what am I looking for now? The basing guide, that's what I'm looking for. I don't even know where that is, I think it's at the start. I just need to double check what shade I use on the base. It's in one of my old videos that I mention it. I mentioned it quite a few times in my old videos, but best to double check it before I make a start on the base. The trouble is though, I can't remember how far through this collection of pages from Conquest it is. So I might be some time. Base Steel Legion Drab. Let's just flick through. This is really interesting stuff for you to watch, I'm sure. Yeah, so with regards to what my hectic life... Tabletop Banter in the chat, how you doing, mate? Yeah, it is an early start. We've got Milton Keynes AD in the chat as well. From Milton Keynes, not Milton Keynes AD. Yeah, it is an early start. I like to get up early on Sunday mornings and say hello to all the Australians out there and all the people on the other side of the world and any lunatics over here. To be fair, it's not that early really if you're a grown adult. I found the basing guide here. Got David Simpson in the chat as well. Morning, mate. I'm guessing George is with you too. More Draka. It will be around issue 52. Now the problem is, you say that it'll be around issue 52, but this is just the painting sections. So the problem is, it's got no issue numbers on it. I found it though, so it's no problem really. Got Louth, South Lincolnshire, Jamie Bates in the chat, yes. So there's no issue numbers here because I've taken all the pages out and put them into the binder. But I found it nonetheless. The Dank Swamp. So it's Athonian camo shade I need to find and Ogren camo, which I've got neither to hand here. I could improvise and use some contrast paints watered down. I may end up doing that. I don't even know where my palette is, you know. I'm so unprepared for this stream. You'd think I'd have gotten up earlier and sorted myself out. But I need some Athonian camo shade and I need some Ogren camo. Let's move them brushes there. Shove that out of the way. Grab my paint rack. I'll tell you what I'm going to do just to make it interesting. I'm going to place these on the desk in front of the camera and then you can see all the colours I've got. All the colours of paint. Yeah, it's not actually too early over here, as I was saying to Tabletop Banter. If you're an adult, I think you are an adult now, aren't you? Tabletop Banter, no more student life for you. Unless you're doing a Masters or something. But yeah, I'm used to getting up pretty early anyway myself, so it's only like 8:30 here now in the morning. 8:42 to be exact. Oh, this isn't going to work, is it? I'm going to knock everything over. Look at all my paints. To be fair, you can only see a really small selection of them there. Right, I'll just plonk them on the desk. There's so many paints. Yeah, so what is going to be going on in the channel? Got Carl Orpington in the chat, or Opteron, sorry. Morning, mate. Yeah, with the channel in the coming weeks, I've got... Oh, Brack's got to go. No worries, mate. It's okay. Get yourself off to bed. It's about that time for you over there now, I guess. Yeah, what's going on with the channel? In the coming weeks, my video content is likely to slow down. What I'll do is try and ensure that my Conquest, my Mortal Realms videos rather, are still going up on a regular basis that you'd expect. What is going on with that Boy Watcher Green? Look at that. It's gone all weird. I think it's alright, to be honest. It's just probably a little bit extra heat that it's not used to being in my house. Yeah, so my content's likely to slow down in the coming weeks, just with a few things going on. I've got a few issues with my house I need to sort out. I've got so issues with the house, I've said. I've got also, what is it? I can't even work out how to get these back in. There we go. Got issues with the house I need to sort out. I've got a few adult things I need to sort out. I've got a new relationship I just started. I need to dedicate some time to that. I've got paints I can't find that I need to dedicate time to by the looks of it. I'm just having a very hectic schedule at the minute with work and life in general. The bad news is I can't find the paints I need to paint this base. So what I might do is just crack on with Lord Felthius and his tainted cohort instead. Just get some of the contrast paints onto them guys. And then in my own time, off stream, really bad knock to the camera coming now. In my own time, off stream, I will finish the base on that guy. It's really irritating that. I should have really located the paints I needed prior to the stream going live. But I'm stupid, so I didn't. And my mouth's really dry as well. I think I've left my water upstairs in the bathroom or something. Wicked and wild, exactly. Yeah, I've got myself a coffee. But coffee is no substitute for water, in my opinion, for when you're actually... Sorry, that was a little loud. It's a bit weird. Coffee is no substitute for water, in my opinion, if you're actually in need of quenching a thirst. Yeah, it's really irritating. I don't know where my Ogre camo is and my Athonian camo shade. It's got to be somewhere where I've painted. Now, I paint in here at the desk and I paint in there at the on the couch. But where would the paint be? I know where it might be. I'll be back in 2 secs again. 2 secs. 2 ticks, I said, actually. Nope, I cannot for the life of me work out where that paint's gone. So like I said, change of plans. I'm not going to be finishing this guy off, which he's only got 2 steps left to do, or 3. I've just got to dry brush the base with Ogre camo and wash the base with Athonian camo shade, and then just rim the base with a bit of Steel Legion drab. However, I'm going to put him to one side now. I am one of those guys that has loads of these painting handles, but at the minute I've got a load of Sisters of Battle sat on them in the other room. So I will be switching from one to the other. I'm going to crack on with Lord Felthius a little bit now. Oh, that didn't work. Handle of this miniature isn't very brittle. So, and he didn't have far to fall. So he's survived that fall. There we go, that's better. Right, so Lord Felthius now. I don't know where to start with him, to be honest. What I'm going to do is open a tab on my other screen and just get a picture of the miniature up. Even though on the Games Workshop website it's not the colour scheme I use, I like to get a picture of the miniature up to see what parts they do as like armour colours and what parts they do as you know, different shades and different like fleshy textures and stuff like that, just to give me a rough idea of how I want to go about doing it. There's a weird resolution thing happening on my other screen, and it's freaking me out a bit. It's like it's changed to a mobile view or something. But anyway, let's crack on. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Not a lot. Bet you will paint the Sisters of Battle really fab. Oh, thank you very much for your confidence. I'm not too convinced myself. I think part of the reason I started painting them ages ago, part of the reason I've kind of stopped painting them is because I don't know what to do next with them. I'm doing them as Order of the Argent Shroud, which is the silver with the cream and red robes. And I'm just a bit I don't know, a bit put off. I think I can't decide whether I want to do a white robe or a cream robe, because I've seen them on the GW website. It's more like a white than a cream, but then they're supposed to have like cream robes. But I think I prefer just a plain white robe on them. But anyway, Lord Felthius. My beard's hitting the thing that's holding the phone now. I really need to get my hands on another webcam so I can stop using my phone in this fashion. Jamie Bates wants me to show one of the Order of the Argent Shroud. They are in the other room, but I will grab one for you, might as well. Felthius, because I've already ran off screen for a few things to try and locate the pots of paint I need. Lord Felthius and his tainted cohorts. One thing I'll show you about Lord Felthius that I've changed. Just bring him close to the cam, hopefully he'll pick it up nicely. You'll see his head. I've put a load of green stuff on his head. There's a certain Death Guard miniature where his helmet's sort of moulded with his face and his head, so he's got no eyes, and I really like that look, so I've put a load of green stuff over Felthius' head, because his head looks dead squished and like a potato with a mouth and eyes. So I didn't like his head at all, so I changed it slightly just to look more creepy. So he's still got that big sort of cheesy grin on his face, but because I've changed it, I think it gives it a slightly more sinister look, and I prefer that myself. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with the resolution of the screen, but it's really freaking me out. It's like it's zoomed in too far or something. Let me see if I can just zoom out more. Control. There we go. There we go, I've sorted it. It was zoomed too far in. That's all it was, the browser. There is still a weird thing going on with this, because the browser tabs are too big. Anyway, let's click on that one. Lord Felthius. Let's big him up a bit. That's better. Right, so we've got furs, we've got cables. Okay. I'm going to go and grab a Sister of the Argent Shroud to please Jamie Bates. Do you think Imperial Fist look absolutely cool too? Oh, do you think your Imperial Fist looks absolutely cool too? Thanks very much. It's super easy paint job on them. I'll paint some of them on stream one day. But it's super easy. And it's, you know, you look up close and personal to them, and they don't necessarily look amazing, but they look all right, which is, I just aim to get things looking all right. I spray mine with a red primer from Halfords, and then I spray top down with a white primer from Halfords. You could just as easily use one of the GW contrast primers or whatever you wanted to use. But yeah, it gives you like a deep shadow in some of the recesses. You can barely see it here, but just under his legs you can see it there. It's like really red, but it looks like a natural shadow for the yellow, I think, anyway. And then I use a Nazdrag yellow contrast paint for the yellow. I can't remember though. I think because they've got some bigger sort of flat areas on the panels on the aggressors, I think I probably thinned it down and put 2 coats on, because I didn't want quite so much pooling as you've seen on some of my other miniatures, my Reavers. I've not actually got any of the other miniatures to hand behind me. But yeah, Nazdrag yellow is a contrast paint I use, and it gives you a really nice result. It's that kind of, I really like that Heresy era Imperial Fist look. So that's what I was going for with this. And that's why I went for the black trim as well, 5th Company trim in in futuristic era, super futuristic era 40k rather than the Heresy era stuff. Yeah, and then I just it's all contrast paint, and just picked out different areas with different contrast paints like Silicanum grey, the Apothecary white in the shield there. I got my the heraldry. I got the heraldry from Pop Goes the Monkey on Shapeways. But yeah, that's something for you to look at while I run and get a Order of the Argent Shroud sister. You might be able to hear that I'm wearing flip-flops as well. There's a sort of weird squelchy sound going on. They're not wet, it's just making a weird sound on my wooden floor. So here's an Order of the Argent Shroud Sister. I've got a couple here. So I'll just pop that one there on the desk. So here's a Flamer one. I'm not sure what to do on the base yet, but I've just gone in with various skin tones on the sisters that I got, and then I can't remember what I think I used Rakarth Flesh on the robes, and then the inside is Mephiston Red, I think, if I remember rightly. The armor's all just Lead Belcher spray. I just sprayed them straight with Lead Belcher. And yeah, I'm just not sure where to go from there, to be honest. I tried an interesting thing on the hair. I don't think it's come off very well. But I just put a, the Black Templars black straight over the Black Templars straight, the contrast paint straight over the silver. Just to see if I could sort of retain some of the shine of the silver coming through, like the hair's like super glossy hair. But it's not worked. It's sort of dulled it down too much. But I thought it was an interesting thing to try, and I just don't know where to go from there. What to do next? I need to do a wash on the armor, but I'm not exactly sure what kind of wash I want to do on the armor. Do I want to do it more bluey to make it look more steel-like? Do I want to do it more dirty to make it look more like just less like steel, more like beaten iron kind of thing? I'm not entirely sure where I want to go from there, and because I've got other projects on the go, I'm just working on those other projects at the minute. I've got a Repentia here as well with dark skin. Now, the way I do the dark skin, I think I really like the result you get with the dark skin, the way I do it. I do the same priming method I do on the aggressors with red from underneath and then white coming down. And then I do a Dark Oath Flesh contrast paint, and then over that I do a thin down Wildwood contrast paint, or you can use different browns basically depending on how dark you want the skin to be. And for me that shows when on the higher areas it shows a fleshy colour coming through rather than just like a flat colour like a white or something like that. So for me it gives you a more natural skin tone, and I'm happy with the effect it gives you. So it gives you quite a natural skin tone, rather than sometimes I think it's hard to do dark skin like that. So yeah, it was just something I tried once and I liked the results, so I just stuck with it, doing it that way. Oh yeah, I need to find my palette before I get started, don't I? That's irritating. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Not a heck of a lot, but Tabletop Banter, been getting through much of the classic hobby backlog during lockdown. No. I've been watching a lot of Star Trek instead. I watched 6 seasons of... Oh no, I watched all 7... Well, no. I watched about 6 seasons of Next Generation. I watched the final season of the original series. And I watched like 2 seasons of DS9. And now I'm up to almost the end of season 3 of DS9 and almost the end of season 1 of Voyager. So yeah, that's what I've been doing during lockdown mainly. I did do, like, I upped my video output, so I went from 2 videos a week to 3 videos a week. And that was a sort of, in my downtime, I was just watching Star Trek. I was doing a bit of painting, but not a heck of a lot. I've just run out of Lurpak. Bad times. Bad times. Do you think the 9th edition, how much do you think the new 9th edition box will be? Well, the box that we've seen, I think, is going to be about £120. Could be more, though, I reckon. But I reckon £120. If you look at the number of miniatures in it and compare it to because that's not the actual starter box. That's the that's like a launch box, a box that they're going to have available at launch with limited availability. The same as the box with the sisters in. Was limited availability, although then they re-released it because people complained. So yeah, I imagine it's going to be at least £120. But if you compare the number of miniatures in it to the number of miniatures in the Age of Sigmar starter set, there's about 4 or 5 more miniatures on each side, and they're probably character miniatures that will be removed for the actual starter set, and the starter set will probably be £95, the same as the Age of Sigmar one. The Age of Sigmar starter set's £95. The So makes sense for the 40k one to be, in my opinion, and it's all easy to build miniatures. And then if there's characters on separate sprues you can remove from this box, you remove 3 or 4 from each box, then surely, maybe a vehicle, you could take a vehicle out, although there's only the bikes on the Space Marine side. Then surely I'd say you could argue 4 characters in a box like that would be probably about £25 extra. So I reckon the actual starter box when we get it is going to be £95, but this launch box is going to be £120 more than likely. I think that's what people are sort of leaning towards as well. People in the know and in the field. Right, there's my palette. It's under some sunglasses, that's why I can't see it. Look at my palette, isn't it messy? Let's grab some water. Should I use this side or this side? I'll use this side today. That's the most interesting thing you've seen all day, my palette. Has anyone got any good replacement ideas for Lurpak? I don't use Lurpak. I'm not a fan of it. I use Clover myself. But a lot of people just use normal butter. I'm guessing there's no kind of cooking fat in the house. And that's the problem. Because obviously there are immediate replacements. Right. What should I tackle first on this bad boy? Should I do the oranges, the drippy bits? All my drippy bits, you'll notice from the Biology Putrefy miniature, I like to do in orange. So I could start on the drippy bits. I could start on the armour. I suppose if I start on the armour, it'll get the bulk of the work done. But I could start on the antler bits, which I like to do in Wildwood. Is it Wildwood? The dark contrast paint. Smoky bits. Ooh, smoky bits. I just don't know where to start with this guy. When Smokey sings, I shouldn't sing on this because I'll get a copyright strike. Good day from Ben Runterman. Morning, mate. Or evening, I'm guessing, judging by the good day. Ooh. No Sukau, you've ruined my day. I've spent weeks settling on an Imperial Fist theme, and now the red primer technique you've shown looks amazing. Now I feel sorry, mate. You stick with what you were happy with, though, because although this looks amazing, I bet the next time I try and paint an Imperial Fist miniature, it doesn't look like this. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't. But I guess if you manage to master a technique, then it's happy days. But if you notice here, there's some like tide marks on his fist, so it's working with contrast paints. It isn't always the easiest, but it does get you those kind of results that I like personally from about 2-3 feet away, the distance your head is from the tabletop. So I like the results I get with it, but it's you just got to get used to working with contrast paints, I think. If you're going to try that method, a few sacrificial models might be in the pipeline. Might be a good idea to do. I really don't know where to start with this guy. Maybe I should start on one of the other guys. Let's have a look at these guys, see if there's any. I've got some snakebite leather on some of these guys already, you'll see. Should I start on... Yeah, I'm going to start on one of the other guys first. I'm a bit apprehensive about Lord Felthius. I don't know why. Let's just grab this guy with his boom boom gun. What colour do I do with my... Oh yeah, I do my fleshy bits in green, don't I? Right, so just to get some paint on the miniature, I'm going to start with some Plague Bearer Flash. Your Death Guard are looking amazing. Thanks very much, Jamie. I'm really happy with them. It's, again, the Heresy Era scheme, sort of, or inspired by the Heresy Era scheme that I go for. I really like that scheme for the Death Guard. I've never liked the green for the Death Guard, even when I was first into the hobby. About... How old am I? I'm 35. About 23 years ago. I don't know what it is. It's just a boring colour for me, that sort of drab green. Yeah, it's just always been a boring colour for me. So I do try and get the green in there, like on the shoulder pauldrons. That's a Militarum green contrast paint. And then I've got all the flashy bits. You'll see if you look wrapped around the sword there. I've done in a Plaguebearer flesh, which I'm about to tackle some parts of this miniature with. So there is hints of green in there, but it's not as all over as the green. Where are my brushes? I need to get my right brushes first. It's not as all over as the green on my the 40k Death Guard scheme, the typical scheme you see. Well, yeah, again, it's all contrast paints. The main one I use for the skin, the armor, is Skeleton Horde on the Death Guard. Sometimes I thin it down, sometimes I don't, and I seem to get decent results either way. And when I thin it down, I do thin it down. If I'm using it as a glaze, then I thin it down with the contrast medium. But if I'm using it as a wash, like I want it to go into the recesses a bit more, just thin it down with a bit of water instead. And it seems to give me the right results that I'm happy with. I don't know why I'm shaking that. I've got a coffee stirrer that I took the spring off, the whiskey bit off, and then I can just turn that on and it mixes the paint for me. I did try clipping the circle off, but it's like titanium that's made out of or something. It's impossible to cut with any of the clippers I've got. Or maybe I'm just too weedy, too weak. Right, where should I start? Well, I know where I'm going to start. I'm going to start with that blobby thing on the base. What I'm going to do, though, is get some Nazdrag yellow as well. Again, I'm shaking it rather than using my coffee stirrer for some reason. I'm going to get some Griff Charger orange ready to go. Just wet my brush a bit before we start. Shape that bristle. And just slap it on all over this fleshy bit on the base. Interestingly, when you hit over the red bits, I did it on my Ghazghkull Thraka head, where there was a lot of red. I used the same priming technique on that miniature as well, or at least on the face and fleshy areas. There's a lot of red under the chin, and when you go over it with the green, it gives you like a really browny looking colour, which I like as a recess, a shadowy sort of look for. Oh, I can't get to the back of that now. I wonder if I've glued this to the base. Let's find out. Yeah, I like that browny sort of look as a shadow. Oh yes, I've not glued it to the base. Good lad. Can I get it out without snapping it though? This could be a disaster. There we go. Look at that. Yeah, so it gives you like a nice natural browny looking shadow for the green as well. So I've seen people shade greens with reds just to give you that dark shadow rather than going. It doesn't make it black. You could shade like a Caliban green. Is it Caliban green, the Dark Angel's colour? I think it is. You could shade a Caliban green with a black and it wouldn't look too bad because it's a dark green anyway. But then if you shade in lighter greens, like Wild Flesh or something, shade it with a red, then it gives you like a more browny look, and it's like a more natural sort of shadow in my opinion. But some people like that high contrast that you get with a black shade. And if you're painting, say, hordes of orcs, then absolutely shade it with the best colour you think available, because you might have just a simple technique where you paint all your base colours and then you use a Null Oil shade or an Agrax shade, and then doing that, because you use it all over the miniature rather than picking out, sorry, I've knocked the camera again, rather than picking out certain areas, you're using it all over the miniature. So it's like a faster technique for batch painting. Bit of Nazdrag yellow now. No worries, man. I've just done a Xandri base with a Zenithal Wraithbone. Just come back to the hobby after 15 years away. Every decision feels like an existential crisis. It can do. It can do. Yeah, it's a tricky one when you're being a bit. I'm a bugger for being indecisive. I've got to say, I'm terrible at it. If you give me a few options for picking something like food, and then if I'm hungry, I can just make a decision straight away. But at the end of the day, if I don't paint these miniatures right now, what's going to happen? The world's not going to fall apart. Maybe I need to give myself deadlines and say, if I've not painted them by a certain date, I have to sell them. And then I'd have to make that decision a bit quicker. So I'm going over these pustules and stuff now with one of the other contrast paints, Nasdrag Yellow here. Just to pick these out. I'm going to pick a couple of them out with yellow and then a couple with the Griff Charger orange. Doesn't matter too much if I sort of splodge away from the pustule as well, because it could be weeping. This is all lovely talk for when some people over here in the UK might be eating the breakfast now. But hey, it's Death Guard miniatures, what do you expect? If you just joined us in the chat, remember to give the video a like, it'll help enormously. Make this video more likely to be promoted after other videos that people are watching right now. My mouth is really dry. I'd say maybe I should stop talking, but then you wouldn't want to watch, because the whole point of watching this isn't really because I've got amazing painting techniques, it's because I'm chatting away. For me it is anyway. Like when I watch someone do a painting stream, it's more because I want to be painting while they're talking. It's like a podcast sort of situation, isn't it? Yeah, so if you're just joining us as well, I've mentioned earlier, I've got a lot going on in life at the minute, in real life. That's one of the reasons this video isn't a regular Sunday Conquest tutorial mission video. I've got about 6 of them left to make, and then it's onto the game proper. I don't know whether I'm going to go with the game proper or I'm going to sort of adapt the rules of 9th edition and apply them to the missions in Conquest or what. I don't know exactly. Because I'm sure by the time I get onto the game proper, 9th edition will be out. And is there any point putting up 8th edition battle reports, which is essentially what they'll be, when 9th edition is out. One thing I started to read as well, I might do a bit of a screen share in a bit and go and have a proper look at it. But one thing I started to read was the small power level games in 9th edition are becoming easier apparently. So you can see with these miniatures as well, it's just occurred to me there. With some of these miniatures, I've not even put them together properly. I've just really push fit them because I got excited, got them out of the pack and just push fit them all together. And the fact that it wasn't glued onto the base, you can see some really big gaps there. I'm hoping I can hide that in the painting. But I've gone ahead and primed it prior to actually finishing putting it together properly with glue and stuff. But hey, it's not the end of the world. These, I'm not bothered about them being like perfect miniatures because they're mainly for the channel, for doing these battle reports and stuff. And it was the drive behind getting Conquest. I wasn't bothered about the Death Guard miniatures at first, but I'm really enjoying painting them because it requires a different set of techniques and stuff to just a regular Space Marine miniature. So I've had a lot of fun painting the Death Guard miniatures, I've got to say. No, not there. I might leave that as is. I don't want this. This is, at the end of the day, it's just part of the base, this. So I don't want it to take away too much from the miniature, but I want you to be able to look at it and know that that's a bit of nurgly stuff. You just have to forgive me a moment, guys. I'm going to be shaking this camera a little bit because I need to send someone a message and this is my phone. Oh, I can't even send someone. You know what? I'm going to take it out of the holster thing. Now you get to see the mess of my desk. I'll tell you what, instead of shaking this phone like a madman, I'll give you a face focus for a moment. There we go. So you can see me whilst I send a message. Okay, now after that fascinating time, just sent some pics of what I'm working on. Excellent stuff, mate. I wonder what that Facebook alert was. Right, oh, we're 50, oh, I thought it said 57 minutes deep then in the stream, but we're not 57 minutes deep, that's for sure. Ooh. I'll tell you what, instead of complaining about my mouth being dry all the time, what I'm going to do, just scoot over to the fridge, which is right next to me, and grab myself some water. I keep my water in a rum bottle because I'm just strange like that. Oshi joining us in the chat now. Good morning. That was who I was messaging, by the way. That's why the desk down camera went all wobbly. Right, let's go back to the desk focus and see if it's live now. Yep, there we go, sorted. Ooh, right. So back to the miniature at hand. How do I want to tackle this guy now? Let's see. Put him back on his base there. So that's looking half decent with the blobby thing on the base. I don't know what colour I want to do that flight. I think what I'm going to do, just to make a start on him, I'm going to start painting his armour. So I'm going to grab some skeleton horde. Tell you what, in the chat, I need a favour from you. Anybody who is new to 40k, what army would you recommend they check out? The completely new to 40k, so no idea about various armies and stuff. But what do you think are some of the most interesting factions in terms of look? Morning Kablams, thanks for joining me, mate. What do you think some of the most interesting factions are in terms of look, aesthetic, and in terms of lore as well to a certain extent, but primarily I'm thinking look and the way they look. For me, Death Guard are one of the more interesting ones. They're really drippy, and there's something interesting about that drippiness. Oh, my coffee's gone cold. Not to worry. Right. Now. Yeah, I think I'm going to... Oh, you know what? No, should I go in with a metallic first for that? Necrons and Eldar from Mordraka. Mordraka09, join us in the chat. Welcome, mate. Underdog Painting as well. Howdy, mate. Howdy. I cannot decide for the life of me which part of this miniature to tackle first. I was thinking the skeleton horde all over the armour, but I'm not convinced now. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for it with skeleton horde. Right, let's thin it down slightly though. Got to get that contrast medium to get that nice smooth look on the armour. I will go with the wash brush. Apologies, not the camera again. I really do need to get a second webcam that I can just like position above the desk, so I don't have to have this camera here, which I've just knocked again. And then you won't get quite so much dizzying wobble on the streams I do. Yeah, so Necrons are definitely one of the interesting ones for me for a new player because they're going to be in the new start. Well, they're definitely going to be in the new launch set for Games Workshop, and I assume that's going to be broken down into a smaller starter set or a few smaller starter sets. So definitely for a new player, it's an interesting time to be becoming a Necron player. And I think some of the new Necron models are really interesting. Vast majority of the old models, or the current range, I guess we'd say, they've never been that interesting to me. So they just look dull and repetitive, and I understand that's kind of what they're supposed to be. But at the end of the day, you're painting these miniatures, and you're painting potentially 100 or more of these miniatures. So for me, you have to have something interesting about the miniature rather than they just all look like T1000s, I think, T800s, I think. So yeah, with the flesh stripped off. So for me, they've never been appealing aesthetically, apart from certain models like the Night Side, Doom Side, some of that big Canoptek spider. Is it a Canoptek spider? I don't know. The big. But what I found about some of the vehicles for Necrons, I always found it stupid that this alien intelligence, this sort of essence of the alien, isn't put directly into a machine. It's put into a humanoid body, which then pilots a machine. I always found that really stupid with Necrons. Why wouldn't you just put the essence of the being that was, the intelligence of the being that was, directly into this machine, like so, a flying vehicle or a walking vehicle, with a crawler kind of thing. So I never understood why the vehicles some of the vehicles at least had pilots rather than just having an intelligence within the vehicle. Right, let's start slapping it all over this armour now, otherwise I'm not going to get anywhere. So I'm just thinning it down approximately 50-50 there. The only reason I've got snakebite leather on these Patruges, I don't know how to say that word, it's Ptruges or something. The only reason I've got snakebite leather on those bits of the model is because I had the snakebite leather out and I used it on something, and then I'd put too much on my palette, so I thought, right, I'm just going to slap it on these miniatures that I've got to hand here. So they're not necessarily going to stay that colour. I might change that colour depending on how it looks with the armour. If I feel it's too close to the skeleton horde on the armour, then there's every chance I could change that colour. Just slapping this contrast paint on there. Yeah, and Eldar for me were underdog painting. I hope Nick's not watching you have said that about Necrons. Yeah, I think Nick knows my feelings on Necrons. He loves the models and loves the way they look and loves some of the old lore around them, but I just could never get with it. I could never get behind it. The original Necron models, the metal ones, when they came out, I was like, wow. And it's probably because it was more close to the time when I'd seen Terminator and stuff for the first time, and I was sort of fascinated by them. They were just Necron Raider models at the time, and I actually sent Nick because I bought a pack of them when I was younger, and I sent 5 of the 6 that you got in the pack. I sent them to Nick, but because of some of the oldest miniatures I've painted, I did keep one of them for myself, and it was probably the best paint job I'd ever done on a miniature back then. But yeah, for me, Eldar aesthetic, the Eldari, Craftworld Eldar, I love the aesthetic that they have, and I always have done since I was a kid, so that's what drew me into the game first of all. The Striking Scorpions in particular were, I think, the first kit that I bought. Have some of them still, but I've stripped them all, so I don't have most of my earliest painted miniatures, which isn't the end of the world. Really should have put some more paint on the palette there, which isn't the end of the world, but I would like some of the earliest painted miniatures I've got. So I can compare it to my current paint jobs. Paints have changed over the years though as well. Like contrast paints do a lot for me, where some people really don't see the point in contrast paints. But for me, like people have been saying on this stream in the chat, they really like some of my paint jobs, especially on especially on the Death Guard and Imperial Fists, and it's mostly contrast paints, if not all contrast paints. So for me, they're sort of helping me up my game, at least in a small way. But yeah, the Eldari, it was, in part, though there weren't many vehicles, or there weren't any vehicles when I first got into the game, it was the Striking Scorpions that drew me to the Eldari. And the more regular sized looking proportions on the miniatures, these humanoid miniatures, where in the lore, Eldari is supposed to be like tall and slender and look kind of like the Belters in The Expanse. But Belters are human at the end of the day, so not quite like that. But they're supposed to be tall and slim and graceful, and what they're basically supposed to be a race of like supermodels, catwalk supermodels, almost, but with elven features. And the models looked closer to that for me than, say, the Imperial Guard models did and still do. Because most of the Imperial Guard models you get, if you look at the size of the wrist is like the width of the head almost, and it's like, what? Or at least the width of the neck. And it just, it's not nowhere near the right proportions, whereas the Eldar models have always been a bit more delicate, a bit more natural looking than most of the other models, because the race is a slender, slim race. So I think that's part of what drew me to the Eldar, the fact that they actually look like they were in the right proportions. But then they started bringing the vehicles out, first of all with the Viper, which for me they need a new kit with the Viper now. It's an interesting looking kit, it's a nice looking kit, or a nice looking vehicle still, but if they update that kit, imagine what they could do with it now. They'd probably keep the same aesthetic, but yeah, if they just updated the Viper kit, they could give you more weapon options and stuff like that. Although I don't want them to update it in many ways, because I know I'll probably just go out and buy one and then it'll sit on my shelf for years, just as grey plastic. Because I almost got back into my Eldar a few years ago, but then I didn't quite do it. I went out and bought a load more models when new models were coming out, but I've not quite gotten into the old, gotten fully back into them. When I got back into the hobby, I painted a unit of Dire Avengers that I'd had for ages, the old metal Dire Avengers. But since then, I don't think I've painted many, if any, other Eldar models, to be honest. And it's not because I don't like them, it's not because I don't enjoy looking at them and stuff, it's just because I've been concentrating on other things, because so much of 40k now has come on leaps and bounds from the 90s. The Orcs drew me in, and in the 90s I'd have never been drawn to the Orcs, other than to maybe set up a Gorka Morka warband. But yeah, I'd never been drawn to them because the aesthetic in the 90s just didn't do it for me. Where now, because of leaps and bounds in technology and model production, they really, really appeal to me now, the Orcs. They look like the vehicles could work, but they're ramshackle enough that it doesn't, it looks distinctive enough and orky enough, but the vehicles, not when you pick them up and look underneath them, but they look like they could work and function on a modern road. You do see vehicles similar to Orc vehicles now, whereas before they were just a bit, I don't know, a bit daft looking in my opinion. And the old Orc miniatures, infantry wise, they just, I don't know, they look really goofy to me. Some of the better ones though were the second edition starter box ones, I thought. The Orc Goths that you got in there, the Goth Orc boys, which I really enjoyed. Not at the time though, really. It was only really when Lord of the Rings came out, and because I'd fallen out of the hobby by the time Lord of the Rings came out. I wasn't doing it actively. Occasionally I'd look at my miniatures and set them up, and sort of, without knowing the rules at the time, sort of play a game, just randomly roll dice and pick numbers that were meant that a model died and stuff like that. But when Lord of the Rings came out again, I went back into Games Workshop because I'd seen they were doing a Lord of the Rings game. So I went back into Games Workshop and got the Lord of the Rings starter set, and then started painting up some old miniatures that I had, and some of them were the Orc Goths that you got in the second edition starter set. They never quite looked as goofy as some of the other Orc miniatures you got back then in the 90s. Although there were some good ones, the vast majority of them just didn't appeal to me in that way. In the same way that the likes of the Eldar miniatures did. And I never liked the aesthetic of Marines. It wasn't until I got back into 40k and found out the Horus Heresy game was a thing that they started appealing to me a little bit more. I think because I started reading the Horus Heresy books is one of the reasons I've sort of fallen for Space Marines in a little way. Is because of a lot of the time that's the case for me though. Just the plain armor panels and stuff just never used to appeal to me. But reading Horus Heresy books and that, they really changed my opinion on the Marines. I think because when I'm reading something and get into something, I'm like, yes, I've got to make that army. I've got to recreate that character or a character like him and put him in one of my forces. So one of the things when I was out of the hobby I looked for were Eldar books, and Gav Thorpe's got a range of Path of the Eldar books, and when I was getting back into the hobby again, I read the Path of the Eldar books and sort of almost fell for Eldar again. But if there was Orc books out there, more Orc books from an Orc perspective, though I understand it's harder to do than an Eldari perspective or a Tau perspective or a human perspective, although I don't think there are many out there from a Tau perspective, to be fair. If there were some more Orc books from an Orc perspective out there, I'd have gotten hard into Orcs in a way that would have probably prevented me getting back into Eldar and back into Marines, as long as the books were readable, Obviously they have to be readable, and you have to have some way of relating to the characters in them. Just going to go all over the teeth coming out of the armour here. I think it's teeth there. Oh, just going over that bit on the base there by accident. Luckily, I've not got much paint on my brush there. I really should work out how much paint I need on my palette before I start, because I'm clearly running out of paint there. Oh my word. Right, let's see. Not a lot going on in the chat, but thanks all for joining me nonetheless. I'm hoping you're all painting along whilst I'm streaming. But according to this, we've got 10 people watching, and I've been streaming for 57 minutes. I did say I was going to only try and stream for an hour because I've got a lot going on in my life. Yeah, so if you are just joining me, the channel output's going to be changing slightly in the next few weeks at least. I've got a fair bit going on in my life at the minute. Work's becoming harder because it's less predictable, because I'm out on the roads a lot more and I'm more tired. I'm doing earlier start times and stuff like that because we've got a driver furloughed at the minute, so I'm covering for that driver. There's also issues going on with my house at the minute that I need to get sorted, so I really need to be concentrating on that a lot more. What I think I'll do is in this stream I'll finish painting the miniature I've got in front of me, or I'll finish getting the bone on his armour at least. And then I'll probably end the stream there. Because I need to be cracking on with stuff around my house. Pete Singleton in the chat. Who is the best Lord? Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Dance, or Lord of the Flies? Now, I want to watch Lord of the Flies again. I've never read the book, but I remember watching a film years ago. And they were doing a remake with women, weren't they? With girls. But Lord of the Flies is a really interesting one. Lord of the Rings is an epic tale of amazingness. So I'd probably say Lord of the Rings. Now, Lord of the Dance, hand on heart, never been to see Lord of the Dance, never seen a production of it on TV or anything like that. I could be impressed by Lord of the Dance, I'll be honest. I'm a big fan of dancing, so I could definitely be impressed by Lord of the Dance. But I think Lord of the Rings for me is probably the best Lord. Ooh, what's that noise? Yeah, so with everything that's going on in the house at the minute, with my house, and things in my life, channel content's going to be changing definitely, possibly slowing down. I'm going to try and ensure I get my Mortal Realms video out every Friday now, because I've switched it to Friday to just take a bit of that pressure off, because I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to read it in work at all and stuff at the minute. So I did 3 dips there, didn't I? So channel content's going to slow down, but I'll try and ensure I get the Mortal Realms video up, and I'll try and make sure I do at least one live stream a week, whether it's this one on a Sunday or other ones on a Tuesday. Yeah, Lord of the Rings, Jamie Bates is agreeing that Lord of the Rings is the best Lord. Yeah. Oh, I've knocked the camera again. Get ready to get dizzy. Wow. Here's a question for you. What's the first thing you'd do if you had a ring of power? If you had the one ring, let's say, to rule them all. What is the first thing you'd do? Could get quite disturbing that, couldn't it, though? Because as soon as the ring turns you invisible. Maybe we shouldn't go down that route. Shouldn't go down that dark alley of potential. Oh, that's looking too dark now. Potential disturbingness. Let's see if we can back out of that topic altogether. It's like there was a programme years ago that called Bernard's Watch on ITV, a kids programme. Now, it was on when I was too old to be watching it, but I'd watch it now and again. And I think that'd be amazing to have that watch. It's basically, Bernard's Watch is a watch that stops time. It freezes the world around you whilst you remain able to move and stuff still. But the things you could get done, like Bernard was always doing nice things, but the things you could get done if you were an evil villain, or if you were, if you were a nice person, just try to do nice things, or if you had a lot of things to do, I could pause the world now, crack on with stuff I've got to be doing, and then I'd have less to do, and then I'd be able to get all my videos made still. Or I could pause the world, record my videos and stuff, and then have them ready to be uploaded. But essentially, I could use it to make sure I can stay on top of everything and keep all my content regular. Whereas other people, evil people, might use it for more nefarious means. Like, you could stop time when you see someone going into the vault of a bank. I don't know if, they must have vaults of some sort, but banks over here in the UK, I was going to say I don't know whether they have vaults. They do have vaults, but they're not like the typical American movie vaults that you see, I don't think. Has anyone in the chat worked in a bank? And if so, can you tell us about the vaults in a UK bank? I'm just going to take this off the holder now. See if I can get into there a little more freely. I might do a bit of the smoke as well. See if I can tackle the smoke in a... My beard's knocking the camera now, so you get ready to wobble again. See if I can tackle the smoke in a satisfactory way. I'm thinking browns and greys for the smoke. Is that... I'm going to paint that. Oh no, that's not his arm. His arm's there. Oh, that was silly. Never mind. Probably going to paint most of the casing of the weapon in a black. Yeah, this leg I think is too dark, but I might just keep it like that because it's just the Death Guard. They've got this dirty look to them where you can get away with having certain armor panels, colours that you weren't expecting. I think that wouldn't necessarily make sense on another miniature. That is pretty much it for the armour. Let's get a bit on the teethy fleshy bit there. I don't know whether to do them in a fleshy colour or a teethy colour. Bit more on his face there. Ooh. Yeah, I've run out of things to talk about, I think. So feel free to provide any more questions you like about various lords or ladies, perhaps, or any other subject you can think of. I can't get this back on now. The struggles of the Games Workshop painting handle. There we go, perfect. Right, what do we need? Water. I'll tackle the smoke, and then I'll probably end the stream after tackling the smoke, but we'll see, because I'm having quite a bit of fun this morning painting this miniature. Although, I should really be nipping out at some point and grabbing some kind of paint. I'm going to be painting my bedroom walls, I think, soon. But not entirely sure when. Right, we want some Apothecary White. We want some Basilicanum Grey as well, I think. Whew. Yeah, so other races that would be interesting for new players. Oh, I did say I was going to do a bit of screen share. What I might do is the smoke, and then do a bit of a screen share and learn more about new 40k. And then potentially go to the Games Workshop website and give any new people out there a whistle-stop tour of the miniatures in the various ranges. Balls out of the bath. Will there be a second lockdown? Yes or no? I think it's difficult to say. Will there be a second lockdown? I think it's likely. Yes, I'm going to say yes, there will be a second lockdown. I don't know when it'll come, but I hope it's not in September or October when I've booked a week in Whitby. Or 4 days in Whitby. So yeah, I hope it's not then, because it would just be nice to change location for a bit. No, you know what? I'm going to say no. I don't think there will be a second lockdown. Not a nationwide lockdown. I think it's more likely to be localised lockdowns. I hope so. I've started gaining a little hobby momentum. Yeah, that's one thing that really frustrated me was I'd started gaining hobby momentum, and then I got a call after 9 weeks of being off, to be fair. I'd finally started gaining a bit of momentum in hobby. I should have just started sooner. But after 9 weeks of lockdown, I got a call, and it was work saying, come in on Monday. And I was like, oh, you absolute bugger. So for me, it was a slightly frustrating call, although it was nice for the little change of pace and change of location as well. So, and I also really appreciate the fact that I'm not spending that much at the minute. So the 100% of the wage that I'm earning now, as opposed to the 80% that I was earning being sat at home through the furlough scheme, it is my bank account's going up now for the first time in a little while. Look at that coffee stirrer go. Isn't it amazing? Whoa, turn it off before you pull it out. So that is Apothecary White. And then to clean your coffee stirrer, you just stick it in your water pot. Whoa, knock the camera again. Absolute silly sausage. Still not very well mixed, that one. Apothecary White's a real devil for trying to get it mixed properly. I do need some agitator balls, I think. There we go, that's starting to mix a bit better. I think it's got it going, that stirrer, but it's just not quite fully agitated it. Off screen. Not to worry. It was just on screen on mine. So that's interesting, because I think you've said off screen before when on mine it was just on screen, so maybe you're not getting the whole picture that I'm getting. Let me scroll up on my YouTube channel. And oh no, that's the chat. I don't want to scroll up in the chat. It should have just been on screen, yeah. My hand is just on screen now. It was about there. Let's see if it catches up. If I am just on screen or just off screen. See, yeah, it should just be on screen. Although my hand isn't on screen. That's interesting. No, it is. Yeah, it should just be on screen. But never mind, it was in the bottom left hand corner of the screen, but there's a possibility that it wasn't. Not to worry though. What was I talking about? I don't know. Oh yeah, I was talking about new players getting into the hobby and stuff. Right, and then I was talking about doing this smoke. Let's concentrate on doing this smoke now. What do I want to do with this Apothecary White? I think what I want to do is something really simple and just slap it all over the smoky bit. Slap it all over there. But we don't want this to look like clean smoke, so I'm going to use another colour as well as the Apothecary White there. You know what? I'm going to tackle some of the other smoky bits on some of the other miniatures as well. Whilst I've got it out. The Apothecary White, let's try this technique on all of them. Lord Felthius, into shot. Don't know whether to go for a sort of brownie look in the recesses, because there's some heavy red shading on this Lord Felthius miniature in particular. And I do want it to look like a dirty, dirty smoke rather than a clean smoke. Oh, that's one thing I always forget to do, is mute my mic on my phone. So there might be a slight tiny echo you can hear on the stream. And I apologise if you can. But I'm sure you can cope with it. Because my mic, when I'm streaming or something, my mic on my phone, or even trying to make a video call, my mic on my phone doesn't work. It works when I'm recording videos, but if I'm doing something live with a video, the mic doesn't switch on for some reason. Not sure what it is. But yeah, it doesn't switch on. It's an old phone now, I need a new one. To be fair, I was about to order a new one when we were still in lockdown, but now we're not in lockdown anymore. I can't be at home when it arrives, when it gets delivered. And I was going to use this one for like a second angle on my videos. Oh, there's so many pustules all over his armour and stuff. Yeah, let's put that there. Let's see if there's smoke on the others. Got a little bit of smoke on this guy here, but not as much. It might be off screen. It might be my screen. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Potential for it to be your screen there, because it seemed to be on screen on my screen when I was watching the video back. Back again. How's he coming along? Well, interestingly, the minute I can't remember what point you joined us in the stream, but I was supposed to be finishing the base on one miniature, which I don't have the paints for some reason. They've disappeared off the face of the earth. The paints I need to finish the base on that miniature. But yeah, this guy is the main guy I'm painting in this video. And he's coming along all right. His armour's looking nice now. He's coming together. Still not convinced about the lead belcher. Not the lead belcher, the snakebite leather rather. I don't know where lead belcher came from there. I might change the colour of the trees or whatever you call them. The bits of leather that dangle down from the armour. I might change the colour of them to more like a wildwood or something. But I'm painting the smoke effects on some of the other miniatures now. And that miniature as well as we speak. So starting with an apothecary white to get a slight smokiness to the higher areas of the smoke. Oh no, you know what I've just remembered? You're supposed to do smoke the other way, aren't you, I think? So the higher areas should be darker, shouldn't they? So contrast paints won't really work on smoke. Potentially won't work on smoke anyway. Let me have a look at a smoke effect on the internet. Let's go on a screen share. Screen share! Oh, that's not very big, is it? Yeah, there's definitely something wrong with the ratios on that. Oh, it's videoception. Right, screen share. Let's go to the Games Workshop tab. Because there's a nice smoke effect there. Yep, I've done the smoke effect wrong. Never mind. Right, what I'm going to do is stop painting my miniatures there then. Because this Lord Felthius miniature, if you look at the smoke effect on him, what I've done wrong is basically I've gone for because contrast paints work a certain way, the dark runs into the recesses, doesn't it? And the light, oh yeah, no, I've done it the right way then. It's okay. But still, I think I might just end the stream there. Not end the stream there completely, because I want to have a look at the some of the new stuff on the community site. But yeah, if you look at Lord Felthius here, what I was thinking was, I'll use my cursor to point out on these areas. Who's that text from there? Virgin Media? What do you want, Virgin Media? Oh, I don't know. Starbucks or Costa? Starbucks for me. Every time they've got a stronger espresso bean that I do prefer myself. But yeah, let's just double check over there, see what's going on. Alright, okay, cool. There we go, right. So yeah, the smoke effect I was talking about, they've got the darker colour in the bottom bits here. And then as it gets further away, yeah, no, that makes sense actually. It makes sense because I was getting confused with flame effects. Because with flame effect, you get the lighter colour at the heat source. You get like a white at the heat source. And then it goes to red and then to yellow. Kind of, or depending on what the flame is burning. You get various effects on the heat source. But yeah, smoke effect works differently. So at the thickest part of the smoke, at the source of the smoke, you get the darkest colour. As the smoke spreads out and dissipates away into the atmosphere, you get a lighter colour. So contrast paints will work for a smoke effect. I don't know whether to just go straight in with some Basilicanum Grey now while it's still wet actually. I think I might do, just to see how we're going there. So I've got this Basilicanum Grey. I was tempted to try and do another colour. But let's go back to the desk focus. I won't quite end the stream there. I will just try this little technique out before leaving. And I'll get myself set up with another screen. Yeah, for me, Starbucks it's a stronger bean. So I do prefer that stronger coffee flavour myself. Costa's more like a fruity bean in my opinion. I'm just putting my fingers all over this paint job I've just done. Fantastic stuff. Yeah, Costa typically is... Oh no, that's not even... I need to wet those bristles before I put that in the paint. Otherwise, the paint will get sucked up into the ferrule. Oh yeah, you know what? I might just thin some of this with a bit of water. Water? Does anybody remember? I think it was a Super Soaker advert. And it was in Australia or something. And the advert was set in Australia, that is. And then there was a kid called Harry and a bigger kid. I think there was a bigger kid, and the bigger kid was like almost bullying Harry, and he said to Harry, "What's the matter, Harry? Scared of a little water?" And it was really just an odd advert. It was in the 90s. There was a lot of odd adverts back then. Yeah, so what I'm trying to do now is give us a darker colour near the source of the smoke. Because that's how smoke works. I don't know if you know. But you get where the smoke is more dense. You get the darker colour at the source. Oh, you know what? I've just gone straight from the pot like an absolute numpty. What a silly sausage. But, I'm not too displeased with the result it's given there. So that is something to try. I should have closed that pot, though, to stop me going to the pot like I just did. Yeah, that's not bad. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. Just rinse that brush off. Going to close that pot to make sure I don't go direct back to the pot. Have I closed that properly? Yes. Yeah, so morning Essex boys, how you doing? Got Lee Titley in the chat as well. Hi, how you doing, mate? Oh, that's full of water, that brush. Not going to be streaming for too much longer. Just going to finish the smoke effect on some of these miniatures, these 3 miniatures here. And then I'll be doing a quick screen share showing the Warhammer community site, just sharing a few thoughts on smaller scale games. And then I might nip over to the Games Workshop website and look at a few of the miniature ranges. Just because. I mean, I could do dedicated videos for this, but it's fitting them in on my channel and stuff. I could do a video like that on Tuesday, though, I guess, if I've got time. Depending on where I've been in the day and where I'm going on Wednesday morning, what time I have to be up and stuff. So what I'll probably do is do, you know what, I need that open again now. I always do that. I close a paint and then it's like, no, I need the paint again. Before we go back to that though, I'll just go a bit more over this one. Just to get some of those undersides there. Right. Excellent stuff. Lee is good. Brilliant stuff. Right, so the smoke effect is almost complete. There's quite a bit of smoke on Felthius, so just going to splash some of that Basilicanum Grey there on the palette and then get some water. And then it acts basically almost like Null Oil. When you mix it with water, this Basilicanum Grey, but slightly like a bluer Null Oil. Null Oil with a hint of blue. I think I'm going to go with the deepest bits. I'm just going to go 2 parts Basilicanum Grey to 1 part water. Just to get it extra dark there, hopefully. And then I'll mix a bit more water in and then go for some of the higher areas. It's hard to get behind these antlers, I have to say. Yeah, going back to the Starbucks or Costa, the coffee I just had was a Starbucks pre-ground coffee. It was a Colombiano one. Colombiano? I don't know. Which isn't as nice. For me, I prefer just their espresso roast. Because it's a proper dark roast espresso. It's my kind of coffee, really. I've got a Lavazza one that's in a black packaging. I'm hoping it's an espresso roast. I'm hoping it's going to be a dark roast. But it does say 5 out of 10 in terms of strength. So I'm not convinced it's going to be. I did have a Lavazza one in like a 200 or 250 ml bag. And it was nice. And then I got this kilo bag of Lavazza and it was too fruity for me. I mean, it was drinkable, but it was like Costa. It was just a little too fruity. Yeah, so it was... Yeah. But yeah, the Starbucks espresso roast is the one I do prefer, typically. Although it's a little bit more expensive than some of the others. I wish I could buy it in kilo bags and it was cheaper. Got Essex Boys asking a question. Have you read The Buried Dagger, the Horus Heresy Warhammer novel? No, I've not read The Buried Dagger. I'm up to Prince of Crows. Excuse me, burping on stream, disgusting. I'm up to Prince of Crows at the minute. Let's go back to the screen share, and then once that's dry, those smoke effects, I'll come back and show you. So I'm up to Prince of Crows at the minute, which is the one about Iago Is that his name? The Night Lord dude. And it's around the when what's his face Comrade Kurz is on his deathbed, or they think he is. So he's trying to make sure that he can make the Legion his kind of thing, to make sure he can lead the Legion. Not that he necessarily wants to be the leader of the Legion, but I think he sees that as his duty, and it really adds a lot of flavour to his character, that short story. I definitely recommend read that one. But I was reading them in order of release. The last novel I read, this was a short story in Shadows of Treachery, I think. But the last novel I read was the one with the Blood Angels and Cabanda. Fear to Tread, maybe? Not sure. Okay, screen sharing. So, what I wanted to do was go over to the community site. Warhammer Community. Oh, crumbs. And see, where is it? Enter the darkness of the far future. Latest news, pre-order now. Let's have a quick look at this actually, because I do just want to... Did I share thoughts on some of these pre-orders already? I'm not sure. Necron Psychic Awakening Pariah, let's address this first. There's not many rules for Necrons in there. Now this was always the plan apparently, according to the Warhammer TV live stream they did. They addressed this issue on the live stream, that there's not many rules for Necrons in there, despite the fact that there's a Necron on the front cover. They've not got like loads of stratagems in there and stuff apparently. And the reason they gave for that is because Necron's a big part of the release of 9th edition. They're going to get a load of new rules there. But it is kind of, it feels like Necron players are being left out a little bit when every faction gets a load of new stratagems and stuff like that. But all you've got to do is wait potentially a couple of weeks, a month maybe a couple of months, I don't know, when 9th edition is released, and then you're getting a big load of rules anyway, and you get a lot of support then in terms of new model releases and stuff. So it's not the end of the world. If I was let's say an Orc player waiting for new miniatures, new rules for Orcs, and then I found out they were part of the launch of the next edition, I'd be like, yes, come on, give me those new Orky things. But more competitive players might want stuff now, but at the end of the day, there's not a lot of tournaments running now, so it's not the end of the world. Essex Boys just mentioned Buried Dagger, as it's all about the final fall and the backstory of Mortarion. I really enjoyed it. Excellent stuff. I'll have to have a look at that one, but as and when I come to it, I think, because yeah, like I said, I tend to read the Heresy books in order of release rather than in chronological story order. So I'll get to that when I get to it, but it is one I can look forward to, definitely. Especially because I'll have, hopefully by the time I get to it, I'll have a fully painted force of Death Guard miniatures. Another interesting thing in the UK now, there was tax, VAT, which is like sales tax in America. There was tax on ebooks, but not on books. But now ebooks are a little bit cheaper potentially. GW were charging more, Black Library were charging more for ebooks because there was tax on them, but there was no tax on regular books, paperback books, hardback books, physical books that you can read. But yeah, now they've taken the tax off, so ebooks should be a little bit cheaper on the Black Library website. I think the new Necron minis are inspired. No interest in playing 40k, but those minis are sensational. Yeah, I totally agree there. One of those things I've always said, like, I'm not a fan of Necrons, but some of the new miniatures are fantastic looking in my opinion. The way they've got like options for you to switch out heads to have like degrading Necrons, and they've got the wired guts hanging out of them and stuff like that. It really it excites me. It just provides a painting challenge that you didn't get with Necrons before, or painting opportunities that you didn't necessarily get with Necrons before, unless you got a little bit creative and made up your own colour scheme and stuff like that. Whereas these sort of degrading Necrons, I really, really like the look of them. Then we've got Lord Inquisitor Kyrie Draxus. Now this is a female miniature, despite the fact that it's got a shaved head. She looks really elven, if you ask me. And she's got this sort of Imperial Aquila shape sort of branded into a head, which is like mental. It's proper grimdark. But yeah, she looks really elven. And a lot of people thought it was a male miniature at first because there's no breastplate on this miniature that you see on most GW female miniatures. A boob plate, as they call it. There is a breastplate, of course, but the boobs are behind the breastplate, and there's no real need in terms of armour to have a boob plate. There's no, it doesn't make any sense because it makes the armour weaker, because the shape of a piece of armour in medieval times, the strength was all in the shape of it, and if you added an extra curve there, it means if you've got a spear or a sword coming towards you, it's just more likely to direct it towards your heart. So it's always a point of contention with 40k fans whether that Sisters of Battle, for example, should have that boob plate. But with this miniature, it's not got that boob plate, so that's why a lot of people, I think, thought it was male because it's got a shaved head and it's got no boob plate. But it's a female miniature. There we go. It's an interesting dragon, sort of pterodactyl looking creature on the arm there. That power fist's really interesting because it looks like no other, or not many other at least, Imperial power fists. This miniature almost looks like it's inspired by some of the Necromunda miniatures. I can't remember the name of the gang. If you play Necromunda, just help me out in the chat there with the name of the gang. That's like the tech gang. But it looks like it's inspired by them. I could just nip over to the Games Workshop website and find out the name of that gang now. In fact, I will. I'm just going to go to spinning him round by accident. Boxed games, that's what we want. I never heard boob plate said so much in my life. Yeah, I'm probably been demonetized because I've said that naughty word. Necromunda. Gangs. Look at all these gangs. The Necromunda gangs are Vansar, that's the name of the gang I'm thinking of. The Necromunda gang are gangs are really cool in terms of what they look like, in my opinion. So that armour looks almost like it's inspired by this high-tech Vansar armour. Now it's not quite the same because this is like armoured panels onto like a fabric sort of torso, fabric pants and torso and that, but it looks like it's almost inspired by this sort of look, in my opinion at least. Let's move on to the next one. There we go. So this is an interesting one because, going back to the boob plate situation, this head doesn't look female. It's not just because it's shaved. For me, it doesn't really look female, but it's got a boob plate on. So it's almost like an androgynous person, this. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Anyway, back to the Pariah release. So yeah, it looks to me like it's inspired by that gang by Vansar. Moving further down, we've got this, what's this guy called now? Luminoseras. Unbelievable miniature in my opinion. This is the kind of thing that could really draw me into Necrons. Look at the way he's pulling away the flesh and the essence of this Imperial Psyker, I assume. On the floor, he's just pulling it away, and he's looks like he's sort of working at it with his little twiddly little hands, and he's like almost breaking down the code of the flesh, it looks like, and he's trying to understand it and work out how we can use that knowledge to help his own race, and it's a fantastic looking miniature. Interestingly, a lot of the new Necron miniatures that we're seeing in the starter set and stuff, or I say a lot of them, a few of them, a couple of the units, they're these, what are they calling them? Scorpec miniatures, where they've got 3 legs. This one's got 4 legs, it's like one hidden behind here, and then 2, 3, 4. But a lot of them have got these kind of legs, and they've only got 3 legs now. I was going to convert a load of Mechanicus miniatures to Dark Mechanicus miniatures, and I was going to use some of the things, the limbs like this, from the Necron Wraiths and give them 3 legs, my Mechanicus miniatures, 3 legs, and use them as the Rust Stalkers. I think they're called Rust Stalkers. The ones that they've got the weird back jointed legs anyway. And yeah, so I was gonna do that kind of thing anyway. But then onto these 2 miniatures here. This is of course Ephrail Stern and Kyganil. Kyganil's like I don't really understand. I don't know much about the story, if I'm honest, but just the dynamism of the miniatures is fantastic in the Sisters of Battle miniature there for sure. And then Kyganil's like a Harlequin that is no longer wandering around with a troop of Harlequin, like an outcast pariah. Yeah, so that's what's coming up in the pre-orders this week, so what you can pre-order as of now. But then going back, what did I want to see now? It was something to do with the game, and it was something to do with it being played at different levels, different power levels. I can't see it here, which is really irritating. View all news. Latest news and features. Pre-order now. Black Library. Faction Focus. Warhammer 40k. The making of the cinematic trailer. The new edition. Join the Combat Patrol. That's what I want to look at, because I've not read it yet myself. And that doesn't appear to be opening. Warhammer 40k, new 40k. Do you like smaller games of Warhammer 40,000? Would you like a game that you can finish in your lunch break? Looking for a quick way to try out a new army? Combat Patrol is a fun and easy way to achieve all of these and today we're taking a look at the exciting new way to fight battles in the 41st millennium. What is Combat Patrol? This is a new way to play small games of Warhammer 40,000. It's for armies of combined total power level of 50 or around 20, or around 25 power level each. Each player will get 3 command points. Each player will get 3 command points each to start the game with, and an additional 1 command point each turn. And combat patrols are played on a battlefield of at least 44 by 30 inches, meaning, so that's 2 kill zones, 2 kill team boards basically, meaning that you can easily play Warhammer 40k on a dining room table or a school desk or almost anywhere. If you're a kill team fan, this board size is the same as 2 kill zones combined, very compact. Yeah, so like I said, it's 2 kill zones combined, and that's exciting for me because I've got 2 kill zones ready to rock and roll. I've probably got 3, I think, actually. Have I got? Yeah, I've got 3 because I've got a starter box as well. Why is Combat Patrol awesome? Let's see what's going on in the chat. A bit early to be drinking from a glass bottle. Yeah, it is just water, not rum, despite the fact that it's a rum bottle. I just really enjoy the sound when I pull it out, if I can get the sound on mic. I don't know if you heard that, but it's a nice little sound. It's just something easy to keep in the fridge, and it's like 75 cent or 70 centilitres of water, so it's a bit bigger than your average plastic drinking bottle. Games of Combat Patrol will only take around an hour to play, making them an amazing option if you don't have time to play larger games. It also means that you can get more games of Warhammer 40,000 into a single gaming session. You could hold your own league or ladder campaign in just one evening. Since you only need a small army, a Combat Patrol force is also a great milestone to aim for when beginning a new faction. And then we've got the double asterisk there. Let's see what that is. Oh, scrolling down. Wow. So it's a big page, to be fair. The double asterisk, as if we needed an excuse. That wasn't worth the scrolling down. I won't be scrolling down again for any more of them. Scrolling up. Right, I've gone past a bit now. There we go. Accept your mission. There are also specific missions for Combat Patrol, and they have goals that are more suitable for this size of wargaming. For example, let's take a look at the Incisive Attack mission. Eternal War Combat Patrol. Incisive Attack. Mission rules. Right, let's read it all. 2 forces have dug in and fought to a stalemate, adopting a new approach to war Opportunistic bands of warriors now venture forth into no man's land to seize vital ground and defeat the enemy with surgical assault across the front. Mission rules: sweep and clear. In this mission, if you control an objective marker at the end of your command phase, it remains under your control even if you have no models within range of it, unless your opponent controls it at the end of any subsequent phase. Primary objectives: victory points are awarded for controlling objective markers as follows. Take and hold, progressive. At the end of each player's command phase, the player whose turn it is scores 5 victory points for each of the following conditions they satisfy for a maximum of 15 victory points. They control 1 or more objective markers. They control 2 or more objective markers. They control more objective markers than their opponent controls. This primary objective cannot be scored in the first battle round. Secondary objectives: in the mission, when the players are selecting their secondary objectives, they can, if they wish, choose for one of them to be surgical assault below. Surgical assault, progressive. Score 5 victory points if you control the objective marker in your opponent's deployment zone at the end of your turn. Cool. And it's got the deployment zone laid out. You're taking up what looks like about 12 inches. Well, no, it's 12 inches from the middle, and that is a 22-inch board, isn't it? So that'd be 10 inches. The deployment zones are 10 inches by 30 inches across, if I'm working that out right. Yes, so anyway, we don't need to focus on that too much. So, do you focus on grabbing your opponent's objective marker, or do you try and keep them off yours? That's for you to decide. There are a host of new missions that can be played for Combat Patrol, each with their own objectives and special rules, meaning that even these smaller games will give your brain a tactical workout. The new Warhammer 40,000 features bespoke Combat Patrol missions both for match play and for narrative crusade games, and we can't wait to try them out. See what's going on in this chat. We've got No Sukau. The Combat Patrol news has made me and my brother feel loads better about getting an army. We were aiming to start at 1,500 points. To be fair, it's a big point level to start at, and with Combat Patrol, it's a more easy access route into the game, isn't it, really? Because you can start with around a 500 point army, and that's what you get in most start collecting boxes, I think. I mean, I don't know exactly, but about 25 power level, I think, is roughly what you get in a lot of the start collecting boxes. So you can just go out, buy one box for somewhere between 50 and 70 pounds, and you've got everything you need to start playing these Combat Patrol size missions. Building your army. An army for Combat Patrol is based on a single patrol detachment, which gives you a nice amount of flexibility and choice for the size of battlefield. So patrol detachment is 2 command points. Immediately then you've only got 1 command point in the first turn because your patrol detachment takes up 2 command points. Restrictions. All of your units must be from the same faction. This detachment cannot include any understrength units. Oh, interesting. Command benefits: +2 command points if your warlord is part of this detachment. If you're playing Combat Patrol, you're taking a patrol detachment, you get +2 command points, so you immediately get those 2 command points back realistically, don't you? Dedicated transports can include 1 for each infantry unit taken. Interesting. So you can take your requirements. I'm guessing the red squares are requirements, so 1 HQ and 1 troop, and then you can take 0 to 2 of each of elites, fast attack, heavy support and flyers, and you can take up to 1 more HQ and up to 2 more troops. Something going off in the chat as well. It's probably the thing that makes getting into Heresy challenging for new players. A Combat Patrol like release for Heresy would be sensational. Yeah, definitely agree there, because I was almost getting into Heresy and then I just kind of stopped. I've got no one to play with, essentially. I could seek out players, but more for me it was more about painting up a force of 1,000 Suns. Well, then I just got distracted by more and more things, like I always do. So it's as much my fault as anyone else's fault. I'm going to turn this camera off here because stop stream, because I'm not going to use that again. Yeah, so come out of that. Yeah, so that was one of the things preventing me getting into Heresy, because you needed like 3,000 points to play a decent sized game, didn't you? But it was let's move that out of the way as well. That's going to be easier for me to maneuver around my desk now. Yeah, so that was one of the things preventing me getting into Heresy. So something like a Combat Patrol 4 Heresy could make me dip my toe in the water again, which I was almost doing but didn't quite do. I bought a few of the plastic starter sets, the Betrayal at Calth and Burning of Prospero, and I never got any further than that really. I started painting up some of the miniatures as Thousand Suns, and I bought a few of the upgrade kits from Forge World for Thousand Suns, but never got further than that. So Combat Patrol Crusade missions will be awesome. It sounds like they will be, yeah. And then we go on for some sample armies. Just looking at this though, HQs and troops, you could make an Orc Combat Patrol army. It's based on power level, but you could go for a cheap HQ, your cheapest HQ you can get, and then you could go for 3 troop units of Gretchen, and then they get to take dedicated transports, although I don't think Gretchen can take dedicated transports. But if you just wanted to fill out the troop units with Gretchen, and then go with 2 elite units or 2 units of flash kits, something like that. I don't know what this all adds up to. To be fair, that's probably over 25 power level, isn't it? I don't know how much a unit of flash kits is, but I think it's probably close to the 10-point mark. Yeah, so it's not exactly easy to game your way into this and get the most firepower if you just go for cheap troop choices. It's not as simple as it first looks. I do have somewhere my Orc Codex, so I could check out these things, but I'm not going to bother because I'm not an expert gamer, so I'm not going to toy with that. But just looking at it, HQs, you could go for just a War Boss or a Big Mech as your HQ, and then go for 2 units of boys for troops, or a unit of boys and a unit of Gretchen to keep it a little bit cheaper. And then you could go for probably 1 unit of flash kits or a unit of looters or something like that to give you a little bit of firepower. Fast attack. Stick in a unit of Storm Boys maybe. Flyers in a Combat Patrol mission? Sounds like you'd be wasting points there to me, but I don't know, just because the board's so small, it seems like a bit of a waste of points that to me. Especially if you do take a dedicated transport for your boys or something. So you can take a truck for your boys to get them across the battlefield that little bit quicker. If you're taking a fast attack unit anyway, like Storm Boys, then you don't really need that flyer to get across the board quicker. But flyers could be useful. We don't know exactly how they're going to work in the new edition yet, other than we know certain things like they can fly off the table. Sample armies. We got so excited about Combat Patrol that we couldn't help but come up with a few army lists, all coming in at around power level of 25. We're starting with a couple that you can make with the models in the new Indomitus box set. Indomitus Necrons, we've got the Scorpek Lord, 3 Scorpek Destroyers, 10 Necron Warriors and 10 Necron Warriors, both with Gauss Flayers. You could go for Gauss Reapers though, assuming power level, still in 9th edition, isn't affected by choice of weapons. So you could go for either. The Scorpek Lord and its Destroyer pals can advance, cutting their way through any enemy unit foolish enough to get close, while the Necron Warriors follow behind, supporting with volleys of deadly Gauss fire. That sounds like fine tactics to me. Indomitus Space Marines. Total power 25. We've got a Primaris Lieutenant leading the force, 5 Assault Intercessors, Blade Guard Ancient, 3 Blade Guard Veterans, and 3 Outriders. So you got the Outriders for speed there. The Assault Intercessors for, just laying into people. Blade Guard Ancient, 3 Blade Guard Veterans for that extra shield save. The Outriders give speed. The Blade Guard Veterans give you a real punch in combat. Support their assault by charging your Assault Intercessors at the same time. So because you've got to choose who you want to fire Overwatch into now in the new edition. That's going to be interesting, and give everything buffs from the aura ability of your Primaris Lieutenant and Blade Guard Ancient. The next 3 armies are all built around the start collecting boxes. So yeah, it seems like power level wise, Combat Patrol probably like the size of a start collecting box. which are a great way to start a new force. Many of them contain enough models for you to build a combat patrol force right away. Genestealer cults, 22 total power. Got an Acolyte Icon Ward, 5 Acolyte hybrids with various weapons, 10 Neophyte hybrids, Achilles Ridge Runner, 10 Pure Strain Genestealers, and a Jackal Alphas. We've added a Jackal Alphas and some Pure Strain Genestealers to the Start Collecting Genestealer Cults box. The Genestealers add some close combat bite, while Alphas adds his expert precision to an already impressive firepower of the Neophytes and the Achilles Ridge Runner. And then we've got a Chaos Space Marine list at 22 power again. Master of Possession, 5 Chaos Space Marines, 2 Obliterators, and a Venom Crawler. You can see though, right away you can see these power armoured models, the higher power level that they have because of their good armour save, means that in Combat Patrol you're going to have much lower body count. Even the Necrons are essentially a horde force, taking 20 models just in 2 squads there, 24 models in total. The Space Marines take 1, 6, 9, 10, 13 models in total. The Genestealers take 25, 6, 7, 28 models in total, and the Chaos Space Marines take 1, 6, 8, 9 models in total. So the lists are a lot more compact in the power armoured forces. This list can be made from the Start Collecting Space Marine box, Chaos Space Marine box rather. The Venom Crawler offers incredible mobility. Back it up with the firepower from the Obliterators and Chaos Space Marines and use the Master of Possession to cast psychic powers to really smite your opposition. Adeptus Mechanicus, 24 power level. We've got a Tech Priest Engine Seer, 10 Skitarii Rangers, a Scorpius Dune Rider, and 3 Cataphren Destroyers, so it looks like they've just added Cataphren Destroyers to that Start Collecting box. Yes, we've added some Cataphren Destroyers to the Start Collecting AdMech box, adding a choice of serious firepower to supplement the Skitarii Rangers' galvanic rifles, able to shoot their heavy weapons on the move without penalty. The Cataphrons can bombard the enemy with fire while the Skitarii advance in the Scorpius Dune Rider. Oh yeah, it's a Scorpius Dune Rider, so it's the hovercraft vehicle, the transport vehicle. I thought it was the Dune Crawler at first. To capture objectives. These are just a few ideas to get you started with Combat Patrol, and all are great foundations to build a bigger army from. Make sure that you join us over on our Facebook page to let us know what army you plan on running in these new smaller games of Warhammer 40,000. So let's go back to the Games Workshop web store now and take a look at not necessarily potential patrol detachments. I just want to take a look at, I did say I was going to cut this off after an hour and I just realised I'm almost at 2 hours now. Orc Combat Patrol, we've got Mordraka 09 in the chat. Orc Combat Patrol will work out a Weird Boy HQ, 3 Gretchens, 10 per squad, 2 Burner Boys, 5 per squad, Elites, that's your Elites, 2 Storm Boys, 5 per squad, and 5 Flash Gits Heavy. That works out at 25 power level, so you can get a lot of orcs on the table if you wanted to. I do wonder, it didn't say anything about a model limit there, but I do wonder if there might be a model limit. But because it didn't say it, I can't imagine there will be, because there's a model limit in Kill Team. If you want a model limit, you can play Kill Team. So that is what? 31, 41, 51, 56 units at 25, 56 models at 25 power level for an orc unit there, comparing that to the Neophytes, which was 28. So if you want to go Horde, go Orcs, potentially Tyranids as well, depending on the power level cost of various units there. So for new players getting into 40k, what armies would you recommend? So Necrons, I heard in the chat earlier, and Eldari in the chat as well. Eldari and Necrons are definitely 2 factions where aesthetically they are very distinctive, and that's one of the things. If you look at something like Space Marines, the models, they're just like bulky, power armoured boys, and they're all similar. whilst some of the newer Primaris models have differences, clear differences between them because they've got different marks of armour, different grades of armour, rather than marks of armour, I should say. It's all Mark 10 armour, Phobos armour. Or no, it's all Mark 10 armour, but some have got like a different setup, like they've got fewer panels of armour and stuff. So let's look at for a start collecting box of Primaris, just to give us an idea of aesthetic. Going across, where's the start collecting boxes? Start collecting Warhammer 40,000. Here we go. So we've got start collecting Vanguard Space Marines and start collecting Space Marines. Interesting that there's no start collecting just Primaris Space Marines, although there is a start collecting Primaris Space Wolves, so you can go that route if you wanted to. But essentially, aesthetically, this is what you're getting with the Space Marines. You're getting a lot of this type of armour. It's like smooth curves on the armour. And yeah, it's a strong Orc Force that by the sounds of it, Essex boys. Smooth curves on the armour. It's very much this tactical look to the armour if you're going with the Vanguard Space Marines. I think I'll at some point grab a Vanguard Space Marine box to supplement my Imperial Fists. I should have, when it was still available. I feel like I should have just got, especially when I was in Germany, and I know they didn't sell out in Germany like they did over here in the UK, because you'd see on eBay a lot of Schaffenspeer models available to buy. Not models, well yeah, the models from the Shadow Spear box, but in Germany I think it was called Schaffenspeer. And I was in Germany last November or something. My hotel, you walk out the front door of my hotel, walk around the back of the building, there was a Games Workshop there. I should have gone in and seen if they had a Shadow Spear available to buy at the time, but I didn't, so never mind. So I'm stuck with buying a Vanguard Start Collecting box at some point in the future. It's not the end of the world though, is it? The nice miniatures to build and paint. Get some of these cool sniper miniatures which have got these camo cloaks, sort of hide them from the enemy. I do like that. I'm hoping Oshi is still watching, because I'm doing this for her benefit. If she potentially wants to take a look at some of the armies here, to see if she wants to get wants to be painting up any of these miniatures and playing with any of these miniatures. But let's go away from the Vanguard Space Marines and look at some of the classic Space Marines you can get here. I absolutely love the ramshackle look aesthetic of the Orcs. So diverse, especially once you get into the Dreads and Cans. Eldari just don't do it for me. Yeah, that's fair enough, mate. They were what got me into the game, Eldari. Or Eldar, as they were in the day. Yeah, the Orcs back in the 90s for me, I just didn't like the look of them at all. Whereas now, like you say, the ramshackle look to all the vehicles and stuff, but they look like they could function as long as you don't pick them up and look underneath them and stuff. Yeah, Oshi's still here. So this is a Space Marine, so very similar type of armour here, but they're just smaller, these Space Marines. I would recommend avoiding these Space Marines in comparison to the newer Space Marines. They've got some cool things like the Dreadnoughts. I've never liked the look of the Dreadnoughts personally, because they just don't look like they'd work very well. The legs don't look long enough for them to be able to walk. And then they've got these models in Terminator Armor, which is a bulkier, heavier type of armor. Gives you a better saving throw and stuff like that. This is a captain in Terminator Armor. He's like a leader guy. He's got a different gun that's slightly fires a few more shots. But aesthetically, I think is for me the best way to choose an army is what you like the look of aesthetically. Now, one thing I think is very distinctive. I'm not going to look at any more Space Marine armies, because essentially it's all the same thing. It's all this smooth panelled armour, the big bulky guys. Compare them to other miniatures, they're normally a bit taller than other miniatures, especially when you get the Primaris Space Marines. So I'm not going to look at any more Space Marine armies because, like I said, they're all very much the same thing essentially. So let's get rid of Space Marine. Let's go Armies of the Imperium. So we've got Adeptus Mechanicus to start. Now Adeptus Mechanicus are like the human, but they've transferred their intelligence. They've not transferred their intelligence into machines, but they've replaced a lot of the limbs with machines and stuff. It's quite a cool idea. So this guy is human. If you look closely under his hood there, you'll see a bit of flesh around his face. But a lot of his limbs have been replaced or been enhanced with bionics. So he's got like all this metal casing. This looks like to me metal casing around his leg, whereas this hand looks like it's been completely replaced with a robotic arm. And then they've got all these robotic extensions on the backpacks here, which gives them a really distinctive look. Have you seen how derivative those sniper guys are compared to the set of Anvil Industries? We can have a look now. I don't want to get too distracted here because I want to get through a quick overview of the entire Games Workshop range if possible. And it was supposed to be quick, and I was supposed to only be streaming for an hour. But let's have a look at Anvil Industries. I do trust your judgment on that in that regard. But I will, once I can get all my models out of the way and get to the keyboard, just type in Anvil Industries. ANVIL Industries. Anvil Industries. High quality resin wargaming miniatures. Okay. Rangers, I'm guessing. Yeah, there we go. A lot of similar posing, similar look to them. They've got obviously a different type of armor because they have to steer clear of the power armor look. Well, not the power armor look, but the exact aesthetic of GW. So they've gone for a slightly more angular look to the armor to make it different. But essentially, you can build guys like this. Oh, Exolord snipers, I think. They came out a few years ago. So potentially not these Black Ops snipers. Exolords. Here we go. Yeah, it'd be the Rangers, wouldn't it, I think? Which is what I was just looking at. Yeah, so, yeah, they are pretty similar. Some pretty similar looks to them. But back to the GW thing. Let's just have a quick look in the chat. The flesh is weak. Exactly. That is the whole idea with Mechanicus. The flesh is weak, so they replace their fleshy limbs with superior mechanical limbs. If you look at some of these guys, it looks like they've got the upper part of the leg. They've still got them. But then you get further down the leg, it just becomes like a mechanical limb at the bottom there. So they can walk across the rad wastes, the irradiated landscape of planets, and the limbs have sort of rotted over time because of all the exposure to radiation. So they've replaced the limbs with mechanical ones. And that's the whole idea with they're based on Mars, the Mechanicus. And it's a human culture. When humanity colonized Mars, it develops its own culture, and the whole idea of the machine replacing flesh got drummed into the society on Mars, and so that's why they replaced the limbs with mechanical limbs. I think I came back out of that too early, but then you go into vehicles as well. I just want to show you this vehicle before we go. You go into the vehicles, and they've got like interesting, like really unique looking vehicles like this, which is like a hovercraft gunship kind of vehicle. Now you can build this two ways. You can build it as that, or you can build it as this transport vehicle. So you can transport other miniatures across the tabletop as like an open-topped hovercraft, almost like a landing craft from World War II kind of thing. And it's still got a few guns on there, but they're not as powerful as the guns on the other one probably. But then coming back out of that, let's have a quick look at the wider Mechanicum range, because there are a few other things that I think are interesting in the range. We've got G the Hypersapien in the chat. How you doing, bud? It's a bit late there over there for you now. Thanks, Dan. I have to shoot off just off to get ready for a barbecue. Excellent, mate. Enjoy your barbecue. Yeah, going more deeply into the Mechanicum range, you've got interesting things like these mechanical dog horse type things, which are like a cavalry unit basically. And yeah, it's like the Mechanicum. The guys on Mars have never seen a horse, but they've seen pictures of them, and they've never seen a dog, but they've seen pictures of them, and they want to replicate that look. And and so they make these creatures for some of their soldiers to ride into battle, and they've got like flamers coming out of their mouth by the looks of it as well. And it's a really interesting sort of a Wild West look, because like Mars is like a desert planet, so they lean into that Wild West look at times, with the double pistols and stuff as well. Yay, like that. Yeah, so they really lean into that sort of ramshackle steampunk sort of Wild West look with the miniature range. And I'd say steampunk, when you get vehicles like this flyer here, it's a really interesting looking flyer, and it's different from other Imperial vehicles. Imperium is like mankind. Yeah, so you get these winged flyers with like a leathery looking wings. Almost again like based on creatures and ideas of Leonardo da Vinci and stuff like that. So aesthetically it's a really unique looking range. Let's come back out of that, and I just want to show you a couple more. Again, we've got these sort of leather or fabric winged flyers, but these are guys with jump packs on the back, wing packs on the back, I guess you could say. I want to see if you can get a 360 on any of these to give you a close-up look, but it doesn't seem like you can. It's the most close-up look we're going to get is on this image here. So it's like you can see here, I'm pointing at the screen like you can see me pointing at the screen, so I'll use my cursor. So this weapon here is like a long flamer, and then he's got his wings on the back there, but it's just a guy with again different mechanical limbs. You see on this image here he's got like talons on the end of his limbs, so he can attack people as he swoops down and gets in there. And they've got really distinctive looking weapons as well, with like long barrels. But yeah, another interesting part of the Mechanicum range there for me. But they also have things like this thing with like really long legs, and another guy riding it. Yeah, I'm not going to go too much further into the Mechanicum range. I want to find the Cataphron destroyers though to show you the other extreme of the range. So they've got like the Cataphron breachers, rather. Well, breachers and destroyers. I think you can build it as two separate units. But the Cataphron breachers are really interesting looking unit. They're a tracked unit, and they've got like a servitor operating the guns. Now a servitor is a lobotomized human basically. And that is what is operating the gun. They program a few basic functions into it, like it can shoot and it can attack. But yeah, that's essentially, aesthetically, that's a completely different look on a tracked unit rather than these winged units and stuff. Off to go to work in my car, but for the stream, thanks for the stream this morning. Good to be back watching stuff like this. Excellent stuff. Thanks very much, man. Thanks for joining me. I like those. What? Taraxi sterilizos. What's that? Taraxi sterilizos. Is that your autocorrect going mental there by any chance? Because I cannot for the life of me work out what they are, unless that's something from another company's IP, and that's what you're calling them. Yeah, so the Mechanicum ranges are it's a really interesting one, because it's like machine and flesh all melded into one. And this guy here, I'm hoping we'll be able to see some images of him, and they've not blanked it out. So if we look closely at this guy, he's a completely different guy. He's floating along. You can see his foot here, it's not even touching the ground, and he's like one of the leaders of the Mechanicum, and he's just looks like a big fat bulbous sort of guy, and he's gotten fat because he's not actually used his legs for ages, but you can see some like proper tainted flesh here coming out from under his sleeve. But his face has completely been replaced by mechanical stuff, and he's got like the odd hint of humanity. But it's a really interesting looking miniature there from the Mechanicum range. Sterilizers. I don't know what that means. I'm looking for miniatures now to see if that's what they were called. Was it the jump unit? Oh yeah, it is, yeah. Skystalkers, right, okay. I just copied the name from the page you were showing. Right, so it's Skystalkers. So they're called Draxus Skystalkers. Yeah, so they're a really interesting model, and I think with a really distinctive look, it gives you like a proper steampunk feel. So that is one that I thought you might like, and they are a really interesting miniature. When I first saw them, I didn't like them because they were not like I expected from the Mechanicum range of miniatures, but it is a really interesting one, and I can understand why you'd be into that. But they're really leaning into the steampunk sort of feel of the Mechanicum with them. And another one, if you like them, you might like are the Sakaran Infiltrators, which they've got these sort of back jointed legs to give them extra speed across the dunes. The Infiltrators and the Rust Stalkers come in the same kit. They've just got different heads. So these guys have got like a dome-shaped head. But then if you look at the Infiltrate, no, that's a Rust Stalker. I think they're all Rust Stalkers. Oh, we've not got a spin around bit of the Infiltrators. But, oh no, wait a minute. Are these the Infiltrators and the other one are the Rust Stalkers? They've got these ones and they've got ones with hoods on the heads instead. But they're essentially the same kit. Yeah, here's the guys with sort of not hoods on the heads, but they've got like more normal shaped heads. It's the same sort of kit, that one, where they've got back jointed legs, and it makes them a bit more alien, even though they are human essentially. Oshi is correct. You can build those in two ways. The other unit, oh right, okay, the Skywalkers, the Skystalkers, and the Sterilizers. Oh yes, sterilizers. Yeah, right. I couldn't read that word for some reason. Right, so I didn't realise you could build that in two ways. No problem. I thought that was just a single kit. Definitely a cool looking range. Yeah, Mechanicus is a cool looking range and really leans into that steampunk aesthetic. So coming back out, we also have, which I don't think you'll be interested in too much, but some people really like the look of, Armies of the Imperium. Oh, wait a minute. Right, so we've got the Adeptus Mechanicus, which are basically nuns with guns. Let's just look at... so we have these jump pack units, which most armies have like a jump pack unit, which are like get across the battlefield a bit quicker. And these guys have got, or girls rather, women, have got flamers, they've got bolt pistols, and they've got chainswords and plasma guns, and they've got all various ranges. And the aesthetic of these guys is inspired by angels and religious symbology and stuff like that. But they've got power armor as well. Typically, they all have the same hair colour because their hair colour is part of the uniform. So that's why these two both have blonde hair. And even under the hood here, you can just see a bit of, or not blonde hair, but white hair. You can see a bit of white hair under the hood there because aesthetically, the part of the uniform is the hair colour. Just get this spinny round image here. So you can get a feel for them from slightly different angles as they spin round there. They're kind of cool looking. But yeah, the whole idea of these is like the nuns with guns, the part of the religion or religious faction in Warhammer 40,000. And then we get a Repentia squad here, which the Repentia squad are repenting for sins they've committed. So they run onto the battlefield without armor, basically, and they've got these massive chainswords that you could barely lift it as a real life human. But again, you'll see like things dotted about these miniatures, like here. She's got a replacement limb because she's lost a hand. And then this is the Mistress Repentia. She's like whipping them into penance, basically. She's making sure they repent and they get into the action on the battlefield. And they've got all these plugs on various parts of their arms and stuff. That's where the armor, when they get the power armor back, when they've repented for the sins officially, get the power armor back here. The power armor plugs into these sockets here. That's essentially the idea there. Looking at some of the miniatures a little more closely, let's get this 3D action going on here. You can see they've got these notes sort of streaming off them as well. It's basically all like letters of repentance, if that's a word, and this one's got a replacement limb here, same as the Mechanicum one. A lot of Imperial miniatures, or various Imperial miniatures, have replacement limbs and stuff like that. Well, you can see like there's various symbols of religion dotted about them as well. It's not like religion, modern religion. It's, you know, religion of the far future, where they worship a god emperor who is sat on a golden throne. But the god emperor is almost a corpse. It's only his psychic presence that's keeping him alive and able to communicate with people. But he can never leave the golden throne because that's keeping him alive. And this is the figure they worship. But then there's religious symbology tied to even things like railings from like a church. You see on the front of this woman here. And yeah, like if you look closely as well, it might be a little hard to see if you're watching on your phone. I don't know if you are, but if you look closely, they've got like pins pushed through the skin, and that's all part of the idea of repentance and stuff. I hope they do start collecting set for the sisters. They are an expensive model range. Yeah, they are. If the sooner they do a start collecting set for me, the better. What could we add into the start collecting set? That'd be an interesting question. Now, you could take some of the miniatures out of the exclusive set that they released and put them, because they're single pose miniatures, which most of the range are actually anyway, you could put them into the start collecting set. But they'd probably put something like, they'd have to put a Canoness in there really, wouldn't they, probably? I'd say they'd probably put a Canoness in there, which is £22.50. The Sisters of Battle Rhino is even £35. But they'd probably put a Canoness in there. They'd probably put a Penitent engine in there. And a squad of regular sisters, probably. Something like that. I'm not too sure. But then they do have tanks as well, the Sisters of Battle. But the tanks are almost like rolling cathedrals, some of them. I'll show you the immolator here as well. So the whole idea and the aesthetic of the Sisters of Battle is inspired by religion. If you look at the front piece of this, the gun shield, I guess you'd call it. So these are flamer weapons coming out the front here, but this is like a gun shield, and it's like a bit of stained glass. And all the fleur-de-lis and stuff are all symbols of the Sisters of Battle, and they've got like statues built into these little reliquaries on the side of the tank here. But then you can see the tracks of the tank. And flick into the next image, a 360 image. They've got as well like creepy cherub servitors, which are like almost like dead babies that they've put a mechanical brain into, or they've used the flesh of the human brain, and they've attached wings to it, and they use them as like symbols of religion as well. And all the candles and flame looks, it's really, it's like a creepy look when you look into the lore of the Imperium. On the face of things, the Imperium are supposed to be the good guys according to Games Workshop, but when you look deeper into it, they're horrible, the Imperium. The things they do, it's like, if we look at it through the eyes of someone in the 21st century, it's terrifying, some of the things they do, the symbology and stuff they use. Yeah, I got my girlfriend an army set for the sisters. I'll most likely do a review on my channel for it. Well, that is me out to cry. That is me out to crying, tears, trying to stay awake, not working now. Oh, no worries, mate. Get yourself off to bed if it's past your bedtime. It's absolutely fine. I like to get as much sleep as possible. And then looking at one of the other vehicles here, the Exorcist, which is like, if you look at this, the immediate thing I think, and the aesthetic they were going for, surely, I'd be amazed if not, is like a church organ. When you look at the organ, it's hard to tell exactly, but this is a female, this is a Sister of Battle sat here, but she's got like a weird face mask on that's like a long extended face mask, but she's like the organist, she's like the gunner of this vehicle. And it's like, look at all the pipes behind her, it's like seeing the organist sat in front of a church organ, and the pipes are coming up behind her, and then the music plays as she presses the keys in front of her. But it's actually a missile launcher. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. Morning, Aidan Harvey, welcome, mate. Thanks for joining us. And again, more cherubs here, which are these baby servitor things that have had wings added to them. And then flames coming out of all these exhaust ports here. These braziers, which again just gives you that religious symbology. If you look at the side of the vehicle, you see more of these statues and set into these reliquaries here. I don't really know, tabernacles, reliquaries, something like that. It's a proper religious feel. There's all these archways on the vehicles and stuff, and it gives you a proper creepy feel. But like they try to make it look a bit more rustic and a bit more inspired by church by putting things on the front of this vehicle. It's a dozer blade, but it's like the kind of fence you'd see, or a portcullis you'd see on a castle or something like that, to give it that extra religious feel. I might need to nip away for a couple of minutes. So what I'll do, I'll leave you looking at some pennant engines, and I'll be back shortly. Penitent engines, rather. I'm back. What's going on in the chat? We've got Ian Harvey in the chat. One of the channels I watch had a purple sisters army, thinking of doing mine like that. Excellent stuff. It's always interesting to see different people's approach to certain armies. One thing to note as well, as I'm going through this range, I should have muted the mic for that cough, shouldn't I really? Never mind, I forgot to do it. One thing to note is you don't have to paint the armies the way they're shown on the Games Workshop website. You can paint them whatever colour you like, but typically they paint them on the Games Workshop website a colour that looks good, but it doesn't mean other colour schemes don't look good as well. Let's get me... Okay, after that slight coughing fit, are these the only female-based armies? There are other females dotted throughout other armies, but the Sisters of Battle are the one where it's like almost exclusively female. These are the penitent engines, and again, these are like people who have sinned, and they're plugged into these engines that kind of torture them, and they just get thrown at the enemy. So again, you've got the brazier sort of look. Let's click on this image here because I think it's a spinny one. But these are men and women, citizens of the Imperium, that are being tortured in these machines as they run at the enemy, and they're sent into enemy lines to try and cause havoc, basically. It's almost like a stockade in medieval times, but it's a machine that you're strapped into, and your mind controls it as you run at the enemy to try and, again, almost try and repent for your sins, to show your penitence. And they've got flamers on them, so big flamethrowers attached to the hands, and these saws as well, which have got blood all over them on this paint job here. But you can see the amount of momentum in this miniature. It looks like it's hurtling forwards into the enemy lines, and it's just a guy strapped in. You can see he's got his old prison pants on there. Going back to the other one, it's a female in the other one. And she's got like a couple of flails attached to her arms as well. So really interesting look to them. Eldar would be next line to have the most female units, yeah. We'll come on to them shortly. Coming back out, I think that basically summarises the Sisters of Battle range. Let's see if there's any more units to pick out. We've got like more religious things, and some of the non-female miniatures might be worth picking out as well. Missionaries with chainsaws, like they've got books, like religious books here, that is holding on this like banner pole, where most armies would go into battle with a chapter banner, a banner representing their organisation. This guy goes into battle with like almost like a Bible. It's a religious book just strapped to a pole, and these words will protect him. That kind of feel, proper faith and belief and stuff like that. And that's the whole aesthetic they've gone for with the Sisters range. Moving on to the next page, something not interesting, but we've got Hospitaller here. So most armies have a way of healing the sick or the injured, the wounded of their armies, and this is an example in the Sisters range. It's like she's got like a nurse's habit on almost. I don't know if nurses don't wear habits, it's more of a nun thing, isn't it? But it's leaning into that nun aesthetic, and she's giving this wounded warrior the last rites here, and there's like doves flying with parchment and stuff like that. And we'll just look for the Saint Celestine miniature just to show you. But again, we'll look at this one, Unit Eruita. This is like one of the leaders of the Sisters of Battle, of a particular order of sisters, and this is like a pulpit, a floating pulpit with flamers, a flamethrower attached to the bottom of it and stuff. It's a really interesting looking model, but I don't like this model just because of her haircut, basically. I just think it's a really harsh haircut, and I think if they'd put a different head on her, it might have been a bit more interesting to me. But I guess you could do a head swap. There's nothing to stop that. She's almost got like these swords coming out of a backpack here. I've never seen this side of the model actually myself. So she's got like these swords coming out of the backpack, almost like wings gathered behind her. Like she's almost achieved sainthood kind of thing. And then she's got this Imperial Eagle, this Imperial Aquila, on all across the front of the pulpit that she's on as it floats across the battlefield. A really interesting looking miniature there. I'm just going to... Should I... Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. Right, let's see if I can move that up a bit. So yeah, it's more central there. So you can see more what I can see there now. But again, the flaming braziers and stuff like that, it's a really interesting looking miniature. And let's see, I just want to see a couple more miniatures in the Sisters range. Like I showed earlier, we've got the Demifuge, Ephrael, Stern and Kyganil. We'll come on to Kyganil's race shortly. But they're basically nuns with guns, that's the general gist of it. And you've got miniatures like this, which is like almost like a diorama style miniature, which is the Triumph of Saint Celestine, where it's a load of relics, the relics of heroes of bygone eras that the Sisters hold, and they just march across the battlefield in this massive procession of about 6-8 miniatures with loads of cherubs flying above the battlefield, flying above this reliquary, and warrior nuns just marching across with a fallen warrior from a certain chapter in the middle of them there on this, and then this sword is like a relic, this cauldron is like a relic, I don't really know, and various relics marching across the battlefield with these cherubs, these servo babies flying above this almost like a funeral procession. I knew I felt affinity with them. I like orcs, newbie in case anyone hadn't guessed. Yeah, so again, there's more miniatures related to penitents. These arco-flagellants are, again, sinners that have been lobotomized and just sent into the battlefield. The Living Saint here, this is one of the gorgeous miniatures in the range. So Celestine is like a saint, a living saint almost. Some people say she's like the the psychic will of the Emperor made manifest kind of thing, because whenever she dies, she always comes back, so she can never truly be killed. But I'll just show you her miniature, and some of the paint jobs Games Workshop do make these miniatures look absolutely fantastic. It's a shame actually that they've got a white background here, because you can barely see the wings until you turn it to different angles. But the wings of the miniature and then the doves you're struggling to see against this white background as well. But the miniature there, she's a saint. She's held onto the base just by these 2 bits of paper. Look, obviously they're not real paper, they're plastic. I've still got Sister's box to paint. I've got a Sister's box to paint as well. I was showing a Sister's miniature earlier to show where I was up to, or a couple of Sister miniatures. But yeah, I'm a long way off getting them painted, but I will be painting them as the Argent Shroud. Yeah, so we've got the Sisters of Battle anyway, and then moving on to I've spent a long time on some of these ranges, but I don't mind. I've got a bit of time today, really. Going back to Armies of the Imperium, let's deselect Sisters Adeptus Sororitas. So we've got the Sisters of Battle Adeptus Sororitas, and then we've got the Adeptus Custodes, which are like another elite form of the Emperor's Warriors. So the Space Marines are like superhuman, genetically enhanced individuals taken at a young age, let's say 8, 9, 10, something like that, and they're implanted with all these organs, the growth rates increased, and then they're made into these superhuman warriors, basically. But then the Adeptus Custodes are like a step above that. They're even more genetically enhanced, and they are proof against chaos and against manipulation and stuff like that. And they're these gold clad, they don't have to be gold clad, you can paint them in other colour schemes like all the ranges, but they are these like gold clad sort of knightly warriors. You could argue that certain Space Marine chapters are knightly, but when you look at these miniatures, the armour is far more ornate, far more baroque, I think, than the Space Marines, and they're supposed to be, in the lore, they're supposed to be bigger than the Space Marine, faster than the Space Marine, but they fight differently, because Space Marines fight as a unit, like a pack of lions, or a pack of wolves rather, whereas Adeptus Custodes fight like lions apparently. But to me, wolves and lions are quite similar, so because they both roam in packs. But yeah, they have these ornate helms that sort of go up into a cone shape, and they've got wings coming across the face guards and stuff, all representing the Imperium of Man, and the Aquila, which is like a symbol of the Emperor, a symbol of the Imperium. They're really interesting range. You've got these long spears with bolt guns attached to them, so they can fire them as a gun, or they can wield them as a really well balanced spear weapon or halberd weapon. They've got these ones with an axe version as well, and they've got this really heavily ornate armour as well, called Alaris armour. I think it's called Alaris armour anyway. These are Alaris Custodians. Let's take a look at a single one, if we can get a spinny one, so you can get a feel for these guys. Yeah, so it's really up armoured, like super armoured. You could barely move in this thing. It's that, but it's powered, the armour, so that is what enables him to move, as well as his prodigious strength. No females in this army though. It's all males in this army. But you can see like it's a far more ornate look to these guys. I won't linger too long on these because there's not a huge miniature range, but one of the cool miniatures in the range are the jetbikes. Again, these jetbikes are really ornate but brutal looking. Let's go to a spinny one so I can show you exactly what I mean. Certain races, like the Eldar, have jetbikes, and they're sleek looking things, like a superbike in modern terms. They look elegant and stuff, whereas these things are all about power and pounding the way through the air, and you can almost imagine the thrum of the anti-gravitic engines and stuff. And they've got like spears like a knight of old, again leaning into that knightly aesthetic, but it's proper ornate armour. And the guns here mounted in the sort of nose of the jetbike, like 3 guns on each side. Yeah, so it gives you an idea of the flavour of that army anyway. But the army range isn't huge. Going back, they do use tanks and stuff as well. and Dreadnoughts, which is like a fallen warrior. So this is a venerable Dreadnought, which is like a fallen warrior that's encased in this robotic suit. So the warrior might have lost all of the limbs, like the Black Knight in Monty Python or something. 'Tis but a scratch, so they insert the remains of the warrior into this, and the suit is like a life support machine that keeps them alive long enough to keep fighting in the name of the Emperor. Yeah, so the Space Marines have Dreadnoughts as well. They do have that type of Dreadnought. They also have the more boxy Dreadnoughts that I showed earlier. And if you keep watching my channel over the course of the next few months, you'll see another Dreadnought coming up relatively soon, hopefully. Right, so back over to the armies of the Imperium. We've done the Mechanicus, we've done the Sororitas, we need the Astra Militarum now. Armies of the Imperium, Astra Militarum. See, Astra Militarum, you'll see straight away as soon as we start looking at the miniature ranges, these are the everyday soldiery of the Imperium. They're more like a modern army. Just scrolling down through the ranges, see some of the tanks. They've got the Basilisk tank, which is like a long range fire support tank. They've got a more up close and personal tank here with melter weapons on, with cannon weapons and ballistic weapons on. And then we've got Ogrins, which are like, they're an abhuman, which is a different strain of human, basically. So they've gone to a particular type of world and they've been genetically enhanced and stuff, but they're not as sophisticatedly genetically enhanced as Space Marines or as Adeptus Custodes. So they're just big brutes, basically, and they're a bit stupid, but they get the job done up close and personal. And then you've got the elite Astra Militarum, these guys here, the Militarum Tempestus. These guys have basically been to a warrior school. Let me just mute that mic again. Yeah, so these guys have basically been to a warrior boarding school where they get sent off when they're young, selected to join the ranks of the Astra Militarum, the Scholar Progenium. The same as some of the leaders, like this Commissar guy here. He's been through the Scholar Progenium as well, I think. I don't know the ins and outs of the law, but these are basically these are the elite soldiery of the massed ranks of the armies of humanity. Whereas they've got like flying vehicles like this Valkyrie as well, and anti-aircraft vehicles like that tank, the Hydra. Scrolling down though, they've got these huge tanks which are like massive, absolutely massive tanks, like rolling churches almost. Yep, scrolling through. Let's just get some of the general ranks. They've got like mortar support groups, that kind of thing, heavy weapon support groups, and then these Militarum Tempestus warriors again, come in the same box as the other Militarum Tempestus warriors. And then you've got a command squad of regular Imperial Guard here. They've got these Sentinel Walkers, a bit like some of the Mechanicum stuff we've seen, but not quite as cool looking. And then you've got Cadians, and you've got Catachans, which are like a jungle fighter version of the Cadians, which are like just guys in vests, basically. Less well armoured than the Cadians. And then they can take things like these Knightly Warriors, these Crusaders, and various other tanks. And there's various other types of Imperial Guard. I won't go into too much detail about it. Certain heroes and stuff. This guy's called Sly Marbo. He's based on sort of Sly Marbo. The name is based on Sylvester Stallone Rambo, but if you look at the face and stuff, and it's probably more based on Arnold Schwarzenegger, the actual look of him. And then we've got Ratling Snipers, which Ratlings are like halflings, basically, like hobbits almost from Lord of the Rings, but they're really good snipers. But they behave a lot like hobbits. They really like food, and they're really good cooks and stuff like that. But they're always nicking stuff as well, getting up to no good. Yeah, there's I was looking for. I must have scrolled past them. I know I've seen Cadian Platoon or something. Here we go. Right, so we've got a start collecting box here. Start collecting Astra Militarum. It sort of sums up what the Astra Militarum are. So they've got this leader model, which is a commissar aesthetically based on like Russian commissars, really. They've got these massive hats over the top, these crazy swords, and this massive plasma gun. And then they've got the general grunts. These are like your typical soldiers of the 41st millennium. Not exactly true. Sisters of Silence are attached to them. I'm not sure what that's referring to. It might have been something I said when I was scrolling through the Astra Militarum. The general soldiery of the Imperium here is what you get. They've got these guns which are nowhere near as good as the guns Space Marines have. They're basically like flashlights. They're laser weapons. These are called las guns, and they're not as good. There's not any females in the current range of this, interestingly. Not that there's no female Imperial Guard. There are female Imperial Guard, but they're in sort of command roles. There's one I've got called Severina Rain, and she's like a leader. But in the current range of Guard miniatures, there are no female models, but here's Severina Rain here. She's a commissar, I believe. And she's the subject of a particular book called Honorbound. And it's just a really cool female-looking model, again without a boob plate. It's got like just your typical breastplate, no boob plate. Sisters of Silence are attached to Custodes, right, okay. Oh, that's based on thingy, isn't it? Based on the more recent, one of the Psychic Awakening books, I'm guessing. I think they're a separate range on the website, though. Let's have a look, because we've pretty much seen all of the Imperial Guard we need to see. I don't think you'd be too interested in that aesthetically. That's Oshi I'm speaking to there, by the way. Because it's Oshi I'm trying to help discover more about 40k and potentially choose an army. Armies of the Imperium. Yeah, Sisters of Silence are still separate on the website, so we'll get to them shortly. You probably don't want to see Imperial Knights, because the good thing about Imperial Knights is it's a low model count, but they're big models. They're cool looking walking tanks, basically. And the idea behind them is these these noble families went out across the galaxy to colonize various worlds with these suits. Now, these suits were designed for farming and for deforestation and stuff like that at first, but they were adapted to help with planetary defenses and stuff like that. They're massive mechs, basically. They've got a night pilot inside them that's attached to them via servo jacks and stuff that go directly into the brain and all kinds of things like that. And they're just walking nightly suits, massive robotic nightly suits, basically. We can just scroll down and you can see some of the miniatures, but they're all pretty similar. Yeah, there's nothing distinctive. These ones are like smaller versions of the same suits that squires might ride in rather than knights. So that just gives you a quick look at Imperial Knights, but they are all expensive miniatures. They're like, just for these two sort of squire guys, they're 45 quid for two of them. Or the bigger ones, 85 quid up, 95 quid up. And then we've got the £100 ones, which are like bigger versions of them. Coming out of Imperial Knights. Armies of the Imperium again. We've got the Inquisition, which are a pretty limited size of army, style army, but they can take other armies as part of their retinue, basically. So these are the Inquisition. Think as Spanish Inquisition. Think sort of a religious or semi-religious order of government, that kind of thing. Some of them are more radical, like this one is kind of like a bit of a radical Inquisitor. The Imperium hates aliens, but certain Inquisitors will use alien technology, like this gun they've got is a shuriken catapult, which is an Eldari weapon. They'll happily use alien technology to try and defeat aliens and try and gain an advantage for the Imperium. And then you've got a proper leaning into classic Inquisitor witch hunter sort of look here with this hat. Looks like what's his name? Hopkins. What's his name? Not Anthony Hopkins. Matthew Hopkins, maybe? I can't remember. Witchfinder General in Britain years ago. in the Dark Ages kind of thing. And they've got like these old looking, almost like musket guns, but it's like a flamethrower that. And swords and stuff like that. And then they can take these acolytes the same as you can take an Astra Militarum army. And then, yeah, there's various ones here, and sometimes they even use aliens, like these Jakero weaponsmiths, which are like really tech-savvy aliens, almost look like orangutans, and I think they're, to a certain extent, based on the orangutans in things like Planet of the Apes, where orangutans are like the most intelligent of apes, or just seen as that, so that's what that alien race is based off of. And they hunt out the enemies of the Imperium, of mankind, and try and slay them, whether that's demons of the warp, or whether it's aliens, or other fallen aspects of humanity. So coming off Inquisition now, let's go back to Armies of the Imperium again. Officio Assassinorum, sort of attached in a way. There's only 4 models, really, for the Officio Assassinorum, I think. Yep, only 4 models for the Officio Assassinorum. Best thing to do would be to buy them as, although there's no saving to be made, I don't think, buy them as an Officio Assassinorum Vanguard detachment, because you get one of each, unless you don't want one of each. But there's only 4 models here. They're basically just trained to do one thing. The guy in the middle here with the big head, he's trained to take out psychers. He's got what they call a pariah gene, and anyone with a pariah gene, if they go near someone with psychic abilities, that psyker gets like a nauseous feeling wash over them, and then they can't control the psychic powers in the same way. They lose their effect, the psychic powers, basically. They can't use them. And then we've got like a sniper specialist here. What are these assassins called? Right, so the Vindicare assassin is a sniper assassin stood at the back there. That's the Vindicare assassin. Then we've got a Calidus assassin and a Calexis assassin, or the other way around. No, or maybe I got one of them wrong. Right, no, that's an... Right, so the guy on the left is an Eversor assassin. He's like a bottled rage, he is, basically. They send him in when there's no other options. It's a kind of a last resort thing, and he's even got a thing where he can blow himself up. So he's like a suicide bomber, basically. In the form of an assassin, he'll just go and shred whatever target he's got, and it's like a brute force sort of weapon. The Calidus assassin, I think. Yeah, so this one is a Calidus assassin. She's got a synth skin. She can imitate enemies, and they don't know she's there because she can mimic their looks and appearance and stuff. So it's all subterfuge with her. And yeah, she can get into where other assassins can't get. I might have to end the stream early after the Imperium, because... No, I'll rush through the rest now. There's not too much to talk about the assassins. It's more the look, I think, that is going to draw you in to various factions, one faction or another. Sisters of Silence now. So now here's a female army, other than the Sisters of Battle. The thing with the Sisters of Silence is there's only one group of miniatures, and they can be built as all of these types of miniatures. So we've got a Witch Seeker squad, a Prosecutor squad, or a Vigilator squad that all come as a single set of 5 miniatures. You can only build them one way. Well, let's just take a quick look at some of these miniatures. They're similar in some ways to the Sisters of Battle, but they've all got the pariah gene that I just mentioned when I was talking about the assassins. So if they go near a psyker, the psyker feels sick, can't use their psychic abilities. These ones have got flamethrowers. Some of the other ones have swords, like this one. And some of the other ones have the Holy Bolt Gun. They're kind of like female knights, these ones. Think Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones, that kind of thing. But with a psychic pariah gene. And then coming back out of the Sisters of Silence range. They take a vow of silence, that's why they're called the Sisters of Silence. I might just need to nip off for a second again to use the toilet. Coming back out, I'll get onto some of the alien races now, because I think I've covered all the armies of the Imperium. So, talk amongst yourselves while I run away. Oh no, we'll go Armies of Chaos next. It's going to be exciting. I'll be back. I'm back. Okay. How many have we got watching now? Let's have a look. We have... Oh, where's it tell me? I don't know. Probably below the chat, isn't it? We have 8 watching still. Amazing that 8 people are watching me ramble about Games Workshop products. Going back to this and back to Armies of Chaos. Now, Armies of Chaos. They're an interesting one. We've got Chaos Demons first of all. Chaos Demons are utter madness. If you look at them, some of them, the idea behind some of them, Nurgle Demons for example, the great unclean one here, is rot and pestilence and disease. That's the whole raison d'etre for Chaos Demons. So what's everyone painting building at the moment? I'm just painting a Plague Burst Crawler. Excellent stuff. I was working on this guy earlier. One of Lord Felthius' tainted cohort, but I am no longer working on him. Orcs is the best according to Jida Hypersapien, and it's hard to disagree. We'll come to Orcs later. Demons are dope as well though. So yeah, we've got Demons of Rot and Pestilence, the Nurgle Demons, like the Great Unclean one here. Then we've got Demons of Khorne, utter rage incarnate. Like I said about the Eversor Assassin earlier, these are actually Rage Incarnate. And then we've got a Lord of Change, the Demons of Scheming, Plotting and Scheming, the Lord of Change. They look into the future at the skeins of fate and manipulate them as they see fit, basically. But also, they can change you into anything, like the utter madness, the Demons of Each. The Smallpox Scrivenger here is another example of a demon of Nurgle. He's got this nose that extends, goes behind him over his shoulder, and it's his mouth. It's madness, and that's exactly, you know, some of these miniatures are really great representations of what it is to be chaos is. It doesn't necessarily make sense. It doesn't look nice, but then we've got Demons of Slaanesh, which are like. Slaanesh is like a pleasure god, god of excess as well. So, yeah, they try to excel. I'll click on this one and give us a bit of a spinny thing. So Slaanesh try to excel at everything they do. Someone who worships Slaanesh might try to excel at everything they do. But some of the sort of sleek looking and almost beautiful, but then if you look at this one, it's got a goat head. This is a Keeper of Secrets, which is like a greater demon of Slaanesh. Coming back out of that. Going down, as you look at Horticulus Slimux, this is like proper Nurgle sort of leans into a sort of comedy aesthetic at times. And Horticulus Slimux for me is one of those models where it just looks like a really comedic model. It's like a weird caterpillar snail thing that he's riding. And you look at the joy on that weird caterpillar snail thing's face as it attempts to get this snotling, because it wants to eat this snotling. Now, a snotling is a minor demon of Nurgle. Think about this big, the size of a cat or a dog, but a teddy bear, let's say. And they run around, and the little devil's like messing things up all the time and spreading disease. And then this guy's like a farmer. If you look closely at his mouth, he's got like a bone sticking out of his mouth, like a bit of straw, like an old country boy that you'd see in certain films. So he's like a farmer, and he spreads Nurgle's disease through the lands and stuff. Morning, the Bard. How you doing, mate? Thanks for joining us. Coming back out of this. Oh, my neck. Now, flesh hounds. In Khorne, you get like flesh hounds and rage beasts, like these pack of wild dogs that are like not really like dogs at all. The dogs with the insides on the outside kind of thing. And then Slaanesh, you get a lot of things like fiends, where they've got multiple limbs. They've got these long, extended snouts with tiny mouths on the end and stuff like that. But again, like you get the perfect sort of tall, perfect warriors of Slaanesh there. And then again, Tzeentch is like, there's a lot of flames involved with Tzeentch. They've got these burning chariots where they've got a weird guy sticking out the back of this disc, and he's got a load of flames coming out of his mouth. They've got these screamers pulling the disc on this burning chariot. It's utter madness. And again, another Tzeentch demon here, an exalted flamer of Tzeentch. A demon prince here can be of any of the Nurgle gods, depending on how you build it. And again, a beast of Nurgle here, utter comedy weirdness. These tubes coming out of the back of his head like a weird head of hair. They're, I think, inspired by certain sea creatures and stuff. Not entirely sure though. And then again, horrors of Tzeentch here, utter madness. Some of them have got like birds' beaks. Some of them have got like massive mouths with tongues coming out, and it's really weird. And then if you look at this model here, this is like really gruesome looking. It's like a harp being played by a demon, but the harp, if you look closely, it's this guy. It's all the tendons being from this guy that are sort of strung up in this harp, and they're all attached to him, and she's playing basically some tendons from his body, that kind of thing. And it's crazy stuff, crazy stuff. That pretty much covers demons, I'd say. It's utter madness, the demon faction. There's different ones, but you get the idea, like Khorne's Rage, Nurgle's Disease, Slaanesh's Perfection and Excess and Pleasure, and Tzeentch's Change. Tzeentch represents change. So that's the kind of idea with demons there. Let's go on to briefly onto Chaos Space Marines, because basically, what have I done? Basically, Chaos Space Marines are Space Marines representing different factions of Chaos. So Khorne, Nurgle, Tzeentch, or the other one, Slaanesh. We've got the chat going off now. Straight out of Hellraiser, that harp dude. Yeah, exactly. I'm Nurgle all the way, but the Infernal Temptress is a thing of beauty. It really is. It's a fantastic model. I have the Realms of Chaos box set, so I have Slaanesh and Khorne. Both cool stuff. Always liked Chaos. I never really liked Chaos when I was younger, but painting Death Guard models, I really do enjoy painting some Death Guard models. But I've never had any Chaos Demon models. So Chaos Space Marines, what I'll do is click on your Start Collecting box set to give you a general overview, and then I'll look a little bit at some of the other ranges. You've already seen plenty of Death Guard miniatures on my channel, so I don't need to show you too much about that. But Chaos Space Marines are basically Space Marines that no longer follow what the Emperor tells them to do. They worship Chaos instead, or they work alongside Chaos in many cases, rather than actually worship them and try and use Chaos to their advantage. So this guy is a sorcerer, and you can see they've got more like goat symbology and more sort of malign witchcraft symbology attached to them, and aesthetically their armor's all mutated in some ways, like it's got an eye on here. Whether that's a real eye or it's just a painted on eye, I'm not too sure, but you can interpret that how you like. They've got like goat symbology on the staff here. The staff is just like a proper gnarly, like an old wizard or a mage crook that you'd think of in like an old medieval film where they're walking through the woods with a crook, just like, oh, I'm a little old helpless man, and then all of a sudden they're a powerful wizard kind of thing. And then they've got a lot of animal fleshes and stuff like that attached to them, animal fleshes, furs and feathers attached to them, things like that. And the weapons are a little bit more alien. Like this looks like it's been chipped out of flint, this knife, so it's as much ceremonial as it is an offensive weapon. So they go for a dark arts kind of feel if you connect it to something like Harry Potter. So it's like a dark wizard in Harry Potter almost. I've come out of the Start Collecting box set there. Whoops. And one of the main dudes in Chaos is this guy, Abaddon the Despoiler. He's got this cool claw. That's the claw of his gene father, his Primarch. And he's got this sword that's it's like a demon sword basically. Let me entertain you. Let's click on that so we can get the spinny camera. So this demon sword, you whisper someone's name to this sword, and then that sword is infested by a demon. It helps basically defeat that person. It helps guide your hand to defeat that person that you're fighting. This is a massive dude, and you can see he's stood on another guy here, another Space Marine down there. And you can just get the general aesthetic just looking at a miniature like this, I think, of Chaos Space Marines. They go for a more villainous sort of look for the Chaos Space Marines. I like Chaos, but more fantasy side. And no, not 40k as much. Anyone looked at Conan game? I'm waiting on some barbs. No, I have not myself. Drakenfell. I listened to the Drakenfell audio novel. But then you get some creatures like this. This is like... we looked at the Mechanicum earlier, and this is like what the Dark Mechanicum could do if there was a Dark Mechanicum range, but there's not a Dark Mechanicum range yet. So they've got like more creepy creatures. Like it's got like fleshy things coming out of its face. This walker that this sorcerers or warpsmiths sat on the back of, and it's got like a sinister looking scorpion claw almost style weapon coming over between its shoulder blades. It's got 6 limbs. It's got an insectoid body, and it looks a bit creepy and a bit more ramshackle than just the regular Space Marine range. Like it shouldn't quite work kind of thing, because they're using powers of chaos to help them build it. And then you get different Chaos Space Marine ranges like Zeech Marines here. These are Thousand Suns miniatures. Rubric Marines, which are supposed to be like power armor that's just got dust inside of them rather than Marines. So it's the essence of the Marine once by. And you get Chaos Cultists, which are like regular humans that worship certain gods of chaos. You get Plague Poxwalkers rather, which you'll have seen on some of my battle report videos. Plague Marines for Nurgle, that kind of thing. And that's pretty much all you need to see for Chaos Space Marine range, I think. We don't need to see much more about that. We've seen Chaos Demons. We don't really need to see Chaos Knights because they're just Knights with a few Chaosy bits on. And yeah, so that's it for Chaos. Moving on to Xenos Armies now. Now this is where, aesthetically, we get a lot of variation from what we've seen already. Got one of them for my birthday. I've seen one take down a knight. Brutal, excellent stuff. They do look like really awesome models, those ones. So Xenos Armies, this is where you really get some differentiation and some individuality, I think, in the Games Workshop ranges. So we've got Craft Worlds, which are Eldari. Craft Worlds, Eldari, are Space Elves. They are like good Space Elves. In a lot of fantasy things you get light side elves and dark elves. Light side elves, good elves, that they're happy to fight alongside humans when they need to and stuff like that. That's kind of the vibe you get with Craft Worlds, although not strictly speaking, because they'll happily turn the blades on humans as well, depending on what's best for them. They look into the future and see how their actions will affect the future of the Eldar race. They're a race on the brink of destruction. They once had an empire that went across the stars, and they controlled the galaxy. But now they're on the brink of destruction, like a dying race. And you get with them. We'll look at the start collecting craft worlds for a start. So these miniatures in the start collecting craft worlds, there's only one actual. Oh no, there's 2 miniatures that are alive. I didn't realise you got a War Walker as well. So you get 2 miniatures that are alive in this start collecting craft world set. One of them is this guy. He's a Farseer, so this guy's a Psyker. He's got his ornate helm on. He's got this runic armour on him that protects him from other Psyker spells and stuff. He's got this long blade. He's got these robes. It's really cool. And then onto let's go on to the Wraith Guard. So the Wraith Guard are ghost warriors almost. The Eldar have what they call Spirit Stones, and the Spirit Stone is on part of every Eldar's armour. If they are struck down in battle, their spirit goes into that stone, and then it can be placed onto one of these Wraith Guards, which are like a construct, like a mechanical construct almost, but it's a different type of thing. And then their essence can then control this Wraith Guard, so they can continue to fight in death. It's the same kind of idea as like a Space Marine Dreadnought almost. Speaking of Dreadnoughts, this is more like a Dreadnought-sized model. This is a Wraith Lord. So if you're a particularly gifted warrior and you fall in battle, your Spirit Stone might be placed onto these Wraith Lords rather than the Wraith Guard, because you've got a particular adeptness in battle. And then we have a War Walker, which is piloted by a live being, and again, it's like a sleek, sort of more elegant looking version of some of the walkers we've seen some of the other ranges, like the Mechanicus range and the Imperial Guard range when we looked at the Sentinels briefly. What's going on in the chat? We've got the Bard saying, rebuilding my Eldar on the side, got the start collecting box and had some aspect warriors, lots of 90s and 80s stuff. I had about 8,000 points worth robbed out of my first house. That is tragic. I've got a lot of 90s stuff myself, and some 2000 stuff that I bought off eBay because I like the aesthetic when I really like the 90s striking scorpions. That's what first got me into the game, like I've mentioned. But some of the striking scorpions that came after that, before the ones we've got now, I really like them too. I think it works with the lore, because you don't just have one striking scorpion aspect warrior shrine on a craft world. You have numerous ones, so they'd all have slightly different armor in my opinion, which is really cool. Yeah, it's terrible that you got 8,000 points robbed out your house. Spirit Seer here. So this Spirit Seer is like a wizard kind of guy again, like the Farseer. So this guy, instead of seeing into the future very well, he helps aid the Ghost Warriors. So the Wraith Guard that we saw, that we just looked at, and the Wraith Lords. So he helps control them and guide them to become more accurate with the weapons and stuff like that. And they've got these blank helms, which gives them a sort of mysterious alien look to them, I think. Scrolling down, we see another Wraith Lord there, more Wraith Guard, and then we get onto a Wraith Knight. Now a Wraith Knight is a big model, about this big, and it's like the size of my head basically, but it's sleek and slender, unlike the some of the other models that we've seen in some of the other ranges. So this guy is like a proper tall, elegant model. He's got this jump pack that helps him get extra distance across the battlefield. He's got these huge weapons, these gun weapons he can have, or he can have a sword and shield kind of setup as well. Why is that just facing backwards? That's really weird. Here we go, here's your sword and so this is not a sword and shield setup, but this is a gun and shield setup. So we can have this shield, which is like a shield projector, this thing here, so it projects an energy shield around him, and then he's got these other weapons. He can have weapons on his shoulders, he can have a weapon in that hand, he can have a sword in that hand, or a big massive gun in that hand. It's up to you really, there's numerous ways to build them. Can't mind the third party company, but there's some beautiful aspect warriors out there. Yeah, there's Wargame exclusive, we've got some interesting takes on some of the warriors, but then there's some like striking scorpions from certain third parties. I can't remember the name of the third party. It's something like Ghost Miniatures or something, but it looks like a proper dodgy Russian site, so I've never got there myself with actually ordering a squad of them. And then we're on to jet bikes. So these are like sleek, elegant vehicles. These are like gun platforms almost. They've got guns underneath here, and then they've got a gun on top. I won't go into too much detail in them because I think those models need updating in my opinion. And then we've got these jetbacks, which are Wild Rider jetbacks, which are like your mounted cavalry basically. They've got a gun underneath. They're like a super bike, like I said earlier. Whereas a Space Marine jetbike or bike is like a muscle bike. These are like a super bike. They're sleek and elegant. You can just imagine someone riding them, just leaning into the turns and stuff like that, just to elegantly whip around the streets and stuff, like a bird flying almost. Whereas the Space Marine ones, instead of leaning into the turn and going around a corner, you'd sort of expect them to lean into the turn, but not quite make it and just smash through a wall kind of thing. And then we've got these heavy weapon support batteries. We've got these sleek vehicles, these sleek aircraft. It's a lot more sleek, the look of the Eldar miniatures. This is a tank, this thing. It's a flying tank, a hover tank, a fire prison, which has got a huge gun on top of it. Just whizzing through the range now really quickly. This guy, this is an avatar of Cain. Now, Cain is the Eldar god of war. So this is basically the representation of the god of war on the battlefield. They are almost like a demon, and they have certain keywords, like demon is one of the keywords, I think. So it's almost like a thing of chaos, but not quite, because it's controlled by the Eldar. I'm going to have to sort out the miniature army I've created. Thank you. No worries. Thanks very much for joining me. I'll finish going through the rest of it with you another time, hopefully. But yeah, I think I just got too deep into some of it. I just wanted to try and show Oshi some of the Games Workshop miniature range, because she was thinking about getting into it a little bit herself. So yeah, here's some of the Aspect Warriors, if you're still around, of the Eldar. So these are the Striking Scorpions. These aren't the miniatures that first got me into it, but it's the Aspect Shrine that first got me into it. It's basically the same type of miniature, but they look slightly different now compared to what they used to be. But yeah, that's just a brief overview of some of the miniatures in the Games Workshop range for you. I'll go into more detail with some of the other miniatures on another stream for you, seeing as though you're going now, Oshi. And that was mainly Oshi I was doing it for. Thanks, been 30 notes since 96 when I got one. Right. And with that, guys, I think I'm going to call it a day. Let's come back to the face focus. Because like I said, the main reason I was doing that sort of faction breakdown was for Oshi, because she was thinking of getting into the game. So we got up to Eldari there, and then I can continue from Tau or something next time. Maybe on Tuesday, we'll see. I might do another stream on Tuesday if I've got time, if everything falls into place the right way. But it'll just be hopefully just an hour long stream, not like this one, which has ended up being 3 hours and 15 minutes. I've just realised, wow, I only intended to go for an hour, because like I said at the start of the stream, I know the bar you weren't around, but yeah, 3 hours and 15 minutes. But at the start of the stream I said I've not got much time to be doing stuff, because I've got a lot of stuff going on in my life, so I've not got time to sit down and edit the videos in the same way. And one of the reasons I pushed my Thursday video back, my Thinger video, my Mortal Realms video back to Fridays, was to give me a bit of extra time to edit it, because I'm working in a slightly different way at work now, which means I don't get as much time to sit and read the magazine as I did, because I'm actually driving now instead of just doing a bit of shunting. But anyway, yeah, I think it's about time I called this one a day, and hopefully my streams have been taking ages to upload as a stream on my channel, like a video on my channel, to process rather. So hopefully this one will process a little bit quicker, but we'll see. Anyway, I'll leave it there for now, guys. Thanks so much for watching me. Don't forget, if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by clicking the link in the description below to my Patreon. Hopefully it's in the description below anyway. I know this video had a bit of trouble going live, so I'm hoping there's something in the description below. Thanks very much for supporting me through the chat, and thanks very much for joining me. Don't forget, you can leave a comment on this video if you want to, as well as having joined me and supported me in the chat. You can leave a comment on this video if you want to, and especially if you're watching this video afterwards. We'll leave it there for now, guys. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield. Ooh.